Once there was an explosion, a bang which gave birth to time and space. Once there was an explosion, a bang which set a planet spinning in that space. Once there was an explosion, a bang which gave rise to life as we know it. And then came the next explosion.
What's the last game you remember playing, where combat wasn't the central focus? Be it with guns, a sword, or whatever the devs could conjure up. Hell, I'm even going to count jumping on enemies. Outside the sim and cozy game space, the options are few and far between. Because let's be honest, a lot of games revolve around conflict, dating all the way back to when a plumber jumped on his first Goomba, and many years prior, or fast forwarding all the way to when a player got their first chicken dinner. Conflict or combat is the essential heart of gaming, especially in the AAA space, because thanks to games being an interactive medium, they require input from the player to continue, because otherwise what's the point? What's on screen might as well be an interactive movie, which funnily enough, is something that a lot of people say about Hideo Kojima games. Well, the latter are friends anyway. Yes, the man does love a good long call on the codec, or cinematic length cutscenes now and then, but the act of play and how to push it forward is always at the heart of his projects, along with the messages and themes that surround his past works. Something that isn't for everyone, but that's the beauty of human creation. And even though sometimes his themes might seem ham-fisted, they're levels above what other people try and achieve. From cave paintings to lines of code, these are expressions of us, and the world around said person at the time. Which means the weird and wild delivery walking simulator that sees Norman Reedus go around with a baby strapped to his chest might look a bit out there at first, but honestly there isn't much out there that feels like Death Stranding, let alone a Kojima game. Just by holding the left stick, Kojima takes the player into a whole new world. One that can only really be achieved with the interactive medium, and with a true solid vision. You don't get anything like this when a committee's involved. This is a game about hope, rather than conflict, building rather than destroying, life rather than death. All these themes and aspects are widely abandoned by games, because it's normally the opposite. But in Death Stranding, this was loved by millions of players around the world. Hell, even myself, that's why I'm making this video. But once you break past the game being a glorified walking sim, which is much more than that, and see this for what it truly is, once you let the vision of Kojima Productions take you on a journey across America, it's like no other in recent time. Games like Death Stranding by Hideo Kojima, and other games by auteurs around the industry, are so compelling once they eventually drop. Even more so these days, as it seems like every major game takes about 5 years to cook in the oven, and that's really being generous.
I might make the chase some when you're older.
Just look at other games by auteurs. We're still waiting on Ken Levine's next big game, Judas, and it took 7 years for The Last of Us Part 2 to release. And the less said about that right now, the better, as you can't just talk about that game for 5 minutes in a video, it needs one of its own. And then Alan Wake 2 also emerged from the dark place, 13 years after the first. So graciously, it's only taken about 5 years for Kojima to conjure up another game, which by looking at the trailers, this is going to be a real weird time.
Till the morning.
But before I get my hands on that game, I wanted to revisit the first Death Stranding, to see how it held up, if there was anything like it since, and how the major beats would land once I knew what was on the cards. This was also the excuse I needed to jump into the director's cut, to see what was added, and of course, pop another platinum. But before I get to the list itself, it's probably best I run down how we eventually got to Death Stranding, and why there hasn't been a new Metal Gear Solid game since 2015. Oh, and remember PT? I should have never deleted that thing off my PS4 hard drive. Even if that machine sounded like a jet engine around the time the PS5 came out. Seriously, when I played The Last of Us Part 2 on it, I had to wear headphones. Ever since Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty, Kojima became more vocal in the years that went by, that he wanted to hand the series off to another team. But MGS is synonymous with Kojima, being tied to him in all his quirky ways. Sure, there was a team of people behind Kojima, but he's gained a cult personality with his fans, and that franchise is going to be tied to him forever. And some people might have been more interested with the man himself, the auteur, than the games he directed. Kojima was the front man, and the tip of the spear for many. He was Metal Gear, and it seemed like those at Konami thought so too, because Sons of Liberty certainly wasn't Kojima's last Metal Gear Solid. 4 or 5 games later, depending if you want to count Ground Zeroes, the relationship between Kojima and Konami melted down, but in a very weird way. This was almost public knowledge leading into the final hype cycle of the Phantom Pain. A strange tale started to emerge. Kojima's name being removed from the box was a big one. Then it was almost basically radio silence from Kojima until he re-emerged at Jeff Keighley's Game Awards in 2016.
Last year, I thought I lost everything, but I didn't lose anything.
With Keeley's speech, it was almost like he was announcing his undying love for Kojima. A joke, but going back, you can clearly see he was talking for a man who was silenced by lawyers, and probably a ton of NDAs.
But whenever I was in doubt, what kept me going was a belief that we had to be back on the same stage as last year to give one man a moment he was robbed of.
Big companies can get really weird about what is and what isn't said about them, and Konami was definitely up there at that point, with them forcing their employees to change their email addresses weekly at one point, and changing some names in the credits so talent couldn't be poached. I mean, it's not like that's the point of the credits, and trust me, this is coming from someone who didn't get credited on everything he worked on. But that's film and TV and all their weird rules, I guess. The Phantom Pain also came out at a weird time for Konami, when it was essentially leaving the video game business, as they found higher profits in health clubs and pachinko machines. For such a long time, it hurt seeing both Silent Hill and Metal Gear Solid being plastered all over gambling machines.
Hit the lever!
And yes, I know they're not technically gambling machines, but come on, they're f***ing gambling machines. And speaking of Silent Hill, with Kojima now gone from Konami, that basically put an end to PT, leaving the playable teaser for Silent Hills all but abandoned before it was deleted out of existence. This would have been a much needed injection of life into the franchise that had lost its way, ever since Konami disbanded Team Silent. We did get one last MGS game after the Phantom Pain, but the less said about Metal Gear Survive, the better. Though it does look like one good thing came out of the pandemic, or with it shutting down all of Konami's businesses for long enough for them to turn back to video games, lean to Silent Hill 2 Remake and Metal Gear Solid Delta. That was a long way of saying Kojima and Konami parted ways, but context is key. I might as well use some of the useless knowledge stored in my brain. Thanks to the platform of Keeley's Game Awards, it was 2016 when we got a look at Death Stranding for the first time, and from there, I personally never looked back. Because as I said at the start of this video, not many major games change up the status quo, what with publishers wanting to increasingly play it safe. But thanks to the brand of Kojima, Hideo managed to secure a partnership with Sony, which meant PlayStation would front the cash for his next venture. This was before the exciting, fun Sony shifted back to a more quiet, confident one. And now they put out more remasters than new titles. More Last of Us, anyone? What was thought to be a first-party game eventually became second-party as it shifted over to the PC a few years later with a director's cut. And then the Xbox, exactly 5 years to the day the original Death Stranding released. So with how we got to Death Stranding out of the way, how did this game about reconnecting America with deliveries manage to shift over 5 million copies and amass 20 million players? How did Kojima manage to invent a whole new genre of play with the first ever Strand game? And what actually happened in the story? Well, I'm going to take a look back at this game in a pseudo-retrospective type way, recounting what it was like to get the platinum, and well, spoilers because I'm going through the story. Anyway, I'm Ben Roy, and join me as I take a deep dive into what might be the one true walking sim, Death Stranding. The list consists of 58 bronze trophies, 5 silver trophies, and 1 gold trophy, which as becomes clear, ensures that all porters wanting to go for the platinum will have to do absolutely everything the game has to offer. And just looking back at any trophy list in a Kojima game, this has kind of always been his thing. That man is nothing but thorough, even going as far to get trophies patched into Metal Gear Solid 4 post-release, as that game launched in the dark time, before trophies were a thing. So even in Kojima's game that's most like a movie, it takes several playthroughs to get the platinum to pop. Thankfully, only 1 playthrough is required in Death Stranding, with none being missable and a chance to clean up post-endgame. Remember that time when you'd finish a game and you'd be locked out of the open world? Here's looking at you, Fallout 3.
You should head out. Make the most of it. Could even do some orders if you wanted. Might do you good to get back in the game.
Oh, and thank Christ there are no missable trophies, because there isn't anything worse than having to collect items in an open world game and then find that one item is actually missed, because you know it's in that one location you can never go back to now. That's just criminal. 15 of the trophies are dedicated to clearing the episodes in Death Stranding, and these episodes aren't all equal, with some of them taking likely days to pop, and then others will roll by in hours, which I'm actually a fan of now. Back in the day, I'd use these trophies as indicators to my progress, but whilst crossing America, it's just much harder to gauge. Completing orders of every kind takes up a significant chunk too, with likes and collectibles being a real time sink.
There we go.
And I say this because the last trophy many will likely pop is the Best Beloved trophy. This requires Sam to reach maximum connection level with all the facilities. So whereas a normal player will just be linking the knots together, Platinum Hunters are more than likely going to be going back to these way stations, facilities and cities over and over again. Like the Veteran Porter for example, you never see this guy in the main storyline, and the location is tucked away off the beaten path. And this guy just happens to be Sam Lake. You know that one video game creator that just loves to dance? And it's coffee. Playing on this game's equivalent of hard mode will be on the menu too, with Death Stranding requiring the player to make 10, then 20 deliveries of the rank of Legends of Legends. This is basically an S rank, and it tracks condition, delivery time, miscellaneous, and quality. But carrying a lot of shit fast should do the trick. Just don't damage the cargo too much. This trophy is also helped by building roads and zip lines, which building them also pops the trophy, and plays heavily into the community aspect of this game. But I'll get into that soon enough. Aiming for this will also play into the Great Deliverer trophy. This requires Sam to reach the grade of 60 in all the delivery evaluation categories, and most players won't be anywhere near this once the credits roll, and then roll, and then roll.
But I'll keep coming.
And going for these trophies really adds a layer of value into the Death Stranding experience, with the playtime really being split into two, one being to connect America, whilst also being rewarded with those next cutscenes, and the other, a more satisfying gameplay grind, even if most wouldn't pair those two words together. But all the ranked and leveling based trophies really play into the mechanical nature of Death Stranding, and what Kojima Productions had crafted. They allow for strategy in some cases, and a lot of planning. Because before the director's cut dropped, there were a lot less roads. So a player really had to pick their poison, whether it came to difficult terrains, or maybe a vast stretch of BTs. That, or like me, you build such a robust zipline network that Sam's poor feet finally get a rest. Round out the list, by far the most rarest trophies are Homo Faber and Trailblazer, with Homo Faber requiring the construction of all weapons and equipment, whilst Trailblazer pops after every structure has been fully upgraded. These also heavily tie into getting the maximum connection trophy, as much of these will be locked behind getting on someone's good side, or in other cases, completing certain missions that aren't always mandatory.
Thanks again, Sam. You've given us hope for a better tomorrow.
And for those players that just wanted to roll into the director's cut and get an auto platinum, well, your save isn't going to get you quite there, as once you finally transfer the save after exporting it for some reason, players are going to find that Master Builder, Homo Faber and Trailblazer are going to need a bit more work, which isn't all that bad at first, with a lot of the extra items being gimmicky for the most part, as they play into the crossovers with Cyberpunk and Half-Life. Those extra items can be handy, though sometimes game breaking, and some others are tied to racing, for some reason. Yes, you've got to get the fastest time around a racetrack to unlock the Roadster, which is a little bit annoying as you're never going to really need it, as this thing is useless off roads. And even with a full road network, I just found no use for it. Thankfully the races are a bit basic, and they feel really segmented, as they're off to the bottom of the map, below the Timefall farm. There are also a bunch of miscellaneous trophies along the way, but these will no doubt be popped by those going for a Faber or Builder, especially those tied to reading 100 emails and 100 interviews, because Die-Hardman never stops bloody reminding the player to do so.
Sam, it might be worth looking through your mail in case there's anything we've missed. A piece of local knowledge, perhaps. The folks who live out that way might have noticed something.
Like the stranded coin you find down the side of a sofa, Death Stranding has two distinctive sides to it. That being the overall narrative crafted by Kojima, that's filled with mystery and intrigue up until the final cutscene, and then the game goes and leaves a few more threads unanswered. So I'm going to run through it as best as I can, highlighting moments that I feel key to bring up in this retrospective, and looking back at how much I wrote, well, a lot of it was key. All this whilst running down the other side of the coin, that being the gameplay, which makes Death Stranding feel so unique compared to its contemporaries. Though I'll be the first to admit, Death Stranding isn't the smoothest to control, but then you could almost go as far as to say this was intended, until Sam gets his many upgrades anyway. We all know the best controlling Kojima game ever made was Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain. Hell, it might still be one of the best controlling games today. Some 10 years later I can't think of many games that rival it. Well, maybe the new era of Doom games, but that's really it. Anyway, to the story. America and the rest of the world isn't like what we know today, thanks to the Death Stranding. An event that connects the worlds of the living and the dead, essentially smashing them up together with severe consequences. Though it isn't clear what triggered this at the start of the game, we quickly get introduced to its impact on the world, as it has allowed BTs to spill over from the beach, and more importantly, chiralium, which basically plays into every aspect of this game going forward. From the very gear Sam uses, to the rain itself, it is the game's fix-all MacGuffin. And speaking of rain, it's time to get into the prologue, as time begins to fall. The game starts off with Sam reciting a poem about how our universe came to be.
Once there was an explosion. A bang which gave birth to time and space.
This is Kojima setting the table for what's to come, tying together explosions that can bring life and death. As the opening credits fade in and out, we see Sam riding a reverse trike through what is left of America, though you wouldn't guess this at first glance, as the landscape takes most of its inspiration from Iceland. This might not make sense if you think about it too much, and this is nothing compared to what's to come. So why not just set a game in pseudo-Iceland and then call it America? The beach redesigned the country, and come on, anyone that's played their fair share of video games is probably quite familiar with America by now. Kojima Productions basically flew drones across Iceland and captured a bunch of the landscape so they could craft it in the Deadman engine, one that Kojima just borrowed from Gorilla, because I don't know if anyone remembers this, but when Kojima was looking for a new engine, he went on this weird world tour, going to all these Sony first party studios to see what they had. Just another Kojimaism right there. And the Iceland look, it's a pretty decent one for a new world, exiting the apocalypse and moving on to the future. With its dark rock and black sand, this is down to it being over a tectonic rift, so the Death Stranding could have caused something similar. As Iceland erupted out of the ocean many years ago, this new world erupted out of the world of the dead. As Sam comes to a stop, he looks back to see some crows scattering around, as an upside down rainbow reveals itself behind the clouds, this being a sign that Timefall isn't far off. Timefall is essentially rain that kills whatever it touches, by aging it, but it's still killing you, because aging is, you know, the next step to death. This is shown by a drop that lands on Sam's hair, which turns it grey, and then just look at what happens to those crows. You might be asking, how is anyone alive in this world? With Timefall or water being the thing that can kill you off, but also water is the thing that keeps us all alive. Timefall also degrades structures and equipment, which can explain why there's literally no signs of old America, for the most part. Once Timefall makes contact with anything that isn't air, it becomes water again. This also explains how Sam can survive walking in water, and not shrivel up into a skeleton or something like that. So yeah, people can drink the water once it's on the floor, and it can be used for all sorts, just not when it's rain. When there's Timefall, BTs aren't far behind. Beached things as they're known come from the beach, the realm of the dead, and are invisible to the naked eye, mostly. They seek to consume living matter, and if they do, this can cause a void out. This essentially turning a dead body into a nuke. And I'm just gonna have to guess this is only human bodies, as we see what happens to animals in this intro. BTs come in many forms, but the ones that humans mostly encounter are the ghostly fellows, and everything from the BTs is a real neat design choice, even down to their footprints, which are essentially humanoid hands, so you can only imagine what the real thing looks like. Once they're on the prowl, keeping quiet is the only way a porter is going to survive. Trying to escape the Timefall and inevitable BTs, Sam jumps a ravine, and this is actually false advertising when it comes to the game. Hardly ever does the landscape allow you to do such epic jumps like this, to points that ramps were eventually added in the director's cut. Landing his jump, Sam wipes out as he attempts to avoid a mysterious woman, who's out in the middle of nowhere holding a fancy umbrella. She disappears, and I guess this is a handy plot point to strip Sam from his trike, because you know we're going to need to go through tutorial first. No. So this now leaves Sam on foot to complete the rest of his journey. But before he can deliver his items, he's going to have to go and find them again. I know the devs need to find a way to get the player off the bike, so they can have a bit of a tutorial section, but really the whole game feels like one big tutorial, as hints pop up constantly to inform the player what they need to do, or what they've just done. I don't know if this is because I played the game before, or I was capturing footage, but these hints stay out for so long. I get players need to know the stuff they're doing, but at least give me the option to clear the on-screen hint after a while. I know there is settings in the menu to get rid of them, which I eventually turned on, but just let me hold down the touchpad so they bugger off or something like that. And while these hints are on screen, someone's going to be bound to be talking in Sam's ear.
Sam, you see that sign someone left over there?
This is a Kojima mainstay at this point, as a long time ago he used to deliver this information via codec, but now characters can just call in whenever they want.
Breathe easy, Sam. You're clear of BT territory.
Taking refuge in the cave, Sam decides to partially strip off for a bit, because I guess those coveralls get a little too sweaty after a while, though we do need an excuse to see the handprints all over Sam's body, and these represent how many times he's had a void out. A deer is also in the cave, showing that wildlife has adapted to what is, you know, the end of the world. The Death Stranding has killed many off, but not all of them. But just a little nitpick here, this entire setup is quite effective, but there are little to no caves in the rest of the world, and I'm pretty sure there's no wildlife to be found out there. Now I get why this might be, because looking at Death Stranding, this world is very barren. So to get the game out as fast as they did, I guess the devs just had to make certain calls. I imagine there's going to be wildlife in the next game, and we already know there's going to be many more biomes. Kinda like when Rockstar integrated animals into GTA 5, after they first got a major go around with them in Red Dead Redemption. Falling out of Sam's coveralls, there's a photo that's going to become quite important later, and it's also almost a throwback to The Walking Dead, a simpler time before Daryl grew out his hair. Also, we get a close-up of Sam's, or should I say Norman's, hand. This is a perfect opportunity to point out how obsessed with detail Kojima is, as any good auteur seems to be constantly hands-on. So of course, he wanted to rescan Norman's hand once he got a tattoo to pay tribute to The Walking Dead, and I believe a bunch of the other cast got as well. And yeah, somehow The Walking Dead is still going in TV form, and I'm not ashamed to say, I'm still watching. You gotta love those zombies. Here Sam's skin starts to break out into a red rash. This is down to several factors relating to his physical condition, asmphasmophobia, the fear of being touched, which is only heightened when BTs are around. Obviously our mystery woman didn't get the memo, as she grabs Sam, but in doing so she also teaches the player to stay quiet when a BT is about. This scene really evokes the horror of Death Stranding. As much as I claim this is a game about hope, it has some really effective horror moments that I could see translating really well to the silver screen. That, and it's kind of why I like Final Fantasy The Spirits Within so much. All you need to know of that is there's a bunch of invisible ghouls lurking around the world, meaning humanity is locked off to segmented cities, and barely anyone ever ventures out. A few similarities, but they occupy the same headspace in my brain. As the BT creeps closer, and the two seem to be cornered, the deer runs out, drawing the BT away. The poor thing doesn't make it, and you can find its shriveled corpse outside later. Here's where we learn that both characters have dooms, a unique condition that grants the person the connection to the other side. But there are levels to it, and we'll meet more characters with high levels of dooms later on.
Tears. A chiral allergy. So, you have dooms, like me.
I've got the extinction factor, but I think you got me beat.
What's your level? You can see them, right?
No, but I can sense them.
This cutscene also teaches the player about cryobites, and how they can be used for healing, as Fragile takes one of these worms and just eats the thing. But don't worry, someone's going to definitely remind Sam and the player about this later. We also get a hint into Fragile's background, with how Sam reacts to her and her company branded all over her clothes, and a look into what Timefall can do to humans if they're caught out in it too long.
Not much left of me either. Got soaked from neck to toe.
As Fragile disappears, it's time for Sam to make his last freelance delivery, before he treks across America.
I'll see you around. Sam Porter Bridget.
Kojima also doesn't wait long to break out a staple of this game, that being dropping killer tracks to set the vibe, all whilst the player's out on the delivery.
Don't be so serious.
Many of these come from Low Raw, an Icelandic band to go with the appropriate landscape, and whenever these drop, it's always a treat. After collecting the cargo dropped in the crash, Sam arrives at Central Knot City, and in a rare occurrence, he actually replies to Mama as she talks to him via hologram.
It's not like the legend to come in late.
Had to wait out the storm. Lost my bike.
Sounds like you've been through the ringer.
Now he isn't a mute like Venom Snake in MGS5, but I didn't remember Sam replying to any of these holograms.
Igor, Bridget's corpse disposal. Sam Porter, I presume?
Before Sam gets a chance to be on his way, Igor stops by, and before he can get a word in, Sam's now been drafted in to help corpse disposal. The following events really set the scene for how serious one person dying is. If any go necro, it's bad news. Igor needs someone with dooms, so Sam really can't turn this one down. And here's where we get introduced to the Bridge Baby. But I'll hold off and go into detail into them just for now, as it's time to roll out.
Closest incinerator's to the north.
This route's crawling with BTs. Sure you can't use another?
I wish I could, but there's no time.
The journey to the incinerator starts off pretty simple, with what is essentially an interactive cutscene. You can't really go anywhere, but you can turn the camera around and focus on things you want. I'm always a fan of this, as it's a neat blend of what Valve used to do with their games, when they used to make games, making the cutscenes always interactive. But saying that though, there are many lengthy cutscenes about this. You know, just what you'd want from a Kojima game. The drive also reminds me of that one time that Venom Snake took a ride with Skullface back in Afghanistan. Thanks to Igor, we get a little glimpse into the world before the Death Stranding.
We had highways, airplanes. Hell, you could even visit other countries.
But this doesn't last long, as only Kojima can make a rainbow terrifying.
Son of a bitch. Rainbow!
The weather changes fast, as the body in the back of the truck starts to enter necrosis. You can see a black substance leaking out as well, and it's almost calling to the other side. And also, why is it always black goo? I feel like every scary story with a substance that's going to kill you makes it black goo. I mean, if it works, I guess.
The engine's stalled.
Those assholes got us right where they want us. Get us out of here!
Now stalled, the three are sitting ducks, as Igor's Oju deck starts sounding the alarm, because BTs are closing in.
This BB must be busted or something.
The crash then throws all three out of the truck. With Sam being the furthest away, rushing over to the body, Sam's taken some injuries, but nothing like the driver. With nothing to cover his head, we see what timefall does to a human in real time. This is also where Death Stranding shifts back into full horror mode. Though it might seem like they might get through this, as the BT passes by, the body goes into full necro, which attracts more BTs. The driver here never stood a chance.
Sorry!
After Igor is forced to kill the driver, a stranger floats into frame. Looking like he's stepped out of space Egypt, it's clear the danger isn't over yet. And unfortunately for Igor, he isn't going to be able to take the easy way out, as he's pulled up to the Titan BT. Causing a void out, Sam wakes up on the beach with BB. As things get weird, the camera makes sure to show the player the scar on his stomach. Up in the sky, there are 5 figures, which we come to learn represent past extinction events. After a sing-song from a random woman,
Land and bridges falling down.
it'll be time to repatriate, which is one of the benefits of having dooms. Sam can return from the beach to the world of the living, essentially making him pseudo-immortal. But because we need more questions than answers, Mads Mikkelsen shows up as Sam transitions back. In his wake, the devastation of the void out is immense. So if one death can cause all this, it's not hard to see how the world went to shit fast. For a prologue, this section is masterfully crafted, setting up the world, our lead, and some supporting characters, all whilst throwing a bunch of questions out there that are going to be answered later. There is some gameplay, but it's quite basic, and this whole section is mostly cutscene. Some of the basics are covered, but don't worry, there are many more hints, tutorials, and people over the codec to tell Sam what to do. So yeah, even with it being quite gameplay light, I find it quite effective, transitioning from moments of levity to horror and then back, before we witness Igor's end. There's a reason cutscenes like this were dropped as marketing. They do so much heavy lifting, and the player's like, what, 40 minutes into the game at this point? And even dropping a big old cutscene like this out on YouTube before the game came out, nobody had any idea what the fuck was going on. It was all just spectacle back then, leaving a bunch of us guessing what Kojima was cooking up. Now I do get the critiques that this opening wasn't gameplay heavy, but with a little patience, the player's soon going to be let loose in the next chapter.
And then came the next explosion. An explosion that will be our last.
Wake up in the private room, Sam is cuffed to the bed, as nothing has ever happened. But don't worry, these aren't your standard cuffs, as Deadman explains.
So I'm a prisoner.
These aren't handcuffs. They're cutting-edge devices that keep us all connected.
Us? Oh, us.
The first of many special appearances by Kojima's friends, Deadman is essentially a skin suit for Guillermo del Toro. After teaching Sam and the player about his cuffs, he'll get into, well, the benefits of Sam's fluids. We also find out what happened to everyone else at the Void Out.
Central Knot was obliterated in the Annihilation. Game over, man. The place is a crater.
A nice nod to Metal Gear Solid. Deadman, like many other characters in this game, deliver a bunch of exposition before the order, and as Sam's around the corner, he might as well make one quick delivery to the president. Though Sam knows this delivery is just a means for him to have a face-to-face with said president.
What president? America's gone. You talking about the mayor of Central Knot?
No, not the mayor. America lives on, Sam.
Reluctantly, Sam takes the job.
Very good. I'll see you in the isolation ward.
But I'm also reminded that you have to hold R2 and L2 when carrying cargo in Sam's hand. Thanks, Kojima. I prefer to throw cargo on Sam's back, but because this is a Kojima game, it won't be 2 minutes before a codec call.
Check the map on your cufflinks if you're lost, Sam.
Finally getting some fresh air, Sam walks by some buildings from the old world. Though if you look carefully, these buildings represent a certain misty town. Deadman also explains that if it wasn't for the president having cancer, he and the rest trying to reconstruct America would have been caught in the blast, and well, certainly killed, as if they were the target. Getting down to the facility, it turns out Sam was really off on his own for a while, as he wasn't aware the president was a woman.
Her? The first and last female president of the United States. Surely you remember her. She raised you?
And not only that, but his pseudo-mother. Entering this pseudo-Oval Office, Sam gets reunited with Die-Hardman, and he makes sure to state the obvious. For any player not paying attention.
It's your mother, Bridget. She's a bit out of it, but I know she'll recognize you.
Now, Kojima's been known to do this quite a bit of his writing, but there's certainly nuances to his work. For every one point that he makes obvious, there are like 2 more aspects of his games that you really have to dig into. Bridget just has one request in her dying moment, to follow Amelie's footsteps.
Help Amelie, she needs you.
Though Sam has some strong words to say about the country, Bridget is trying to reconnect.
We don't need a country. Not anymore.
We do. Alone, we have no future.
No, America's finished. Bridget, you're the president of jack shit.
Sam, listen to me.
Sam gets a flash of Amelie as the president passes onto the beach.
I'll be waiting for you on the beach.
With her death, the facade of this room fades. Turns out Sam's now on a contract with Bridges. Thanks, Bridget. So with corpse disposal kind of, well, disposed of, it'll be up to Sam to carry Bridget to the incinerator, whilst Die-Hardman covers up her death. In an effort to keep Bridges going, Sam can't quite reject this job either, with his dooms being necessary. Before taking Bridget to the incinerator, Die-Hardman has a eulogy for her, to keep the very idea of America alive.
She deserves a funeral with full honors. But we can't give her that. If she dies, America dies.
Whilst Sam reluctantly accepts the job. But whilst he's making his journey, Deadman has
one more thing
for the fire. Now in orange coveralls, because of course he needs the proper uniform, it's time to climb to the corpse disposal facility. Putting the camera right back, we get another banger from Low Raw, as Sam carries his mother to her final resting place. And this just creates a true vibe.
There's something that's uncomforting.
Sam will rely on the equipment from Igor, with a couple of routes to choose from, that and the Ojo deck on his back. Using the scanner will help navigate the terrain ahead, this being one of the main mechanics of Death Stranding. As you could say this is a walking simulator, but it's a travelling simulator. You're going forward, or you're going up, or you're going around normally. All building stuff to go over. Blue means it's fine, yellow means it might be a bit slippery or rocky, and red indicates a no-go. Though this does mean Sam can't slip up on blue now and then, especially if he's got a big load on his back. Reaching the incinerator, Sam lowers Bridget into the fire, so thankfully she won't go necro. But even with the body gone, this doesn't mean it's all clear. What if BT's being attracted to the chiralium now released into the air, along with all the ashes? This will of course trigger another rainbow, and timefall. It turns out BB-28 is also set for disposal. Sam hesitates, and in that time, the BTs begin to close in.
The director approved the order.
Setting up a horror scene which just leaves me wanting a pure horror game in this universe. It doesn't have to feature Sam, it could feature anyone really. Could you imagine trying to creep around when BTs are everywhere? And maybe you don't have dooms, or maybe you do. I think there's so much potential for this sort of setting. And it doesn't even need Kojima to helm it. Just, check the notes every now and then. Sam can't stick around though, as BTs will eventually find him. And as Deadman puts it, they'll eat him.
Sam, if one of those things eats you, it'll trigger a void out. You'll come back, sure, but the surrounding area will still be a crater.
Deciding not to lower BB-28 into the fire, Sam hooks up to the apparently faulty equipment. Then we get a glimpse of Mads once again. I'm calling him Mads for now because I don't want to jump ahead and reveal his name, because Sam doesn't know who this is. Fortunately for Sam, this little guy has some life in her just yet, but now he's going to have to go back out and face the BTs head on. This still being very early on in the game, Die-Hardman has been kind enough to suggest some routes. When coming up against BTs, this normally indicates it's time for a sneaking mission, especially in the early stages. Though without a sneaking suit, this means slow and steady is going to be the way forward. The Unger deck comes in clutch here, but you can't stick around for too long, because Sam can't hold his breath forever. Holding Sam's breath becomes a vital mechanic when facing BTs. Not moving too fast to trigger BTs, but also getting out of dodge before Sam's lungs give out, because the endurance gauge won't last forever. If you trigger the BTs like I did, then this will open up a sizable radius of tar, which will allow BTs to reach out and try and pull Sam in. They can be shaken off, but hanging around too long will have them pulling Sam in, and I'll show the results of that in a bit. Returning to Capital Knot City, there'll be another low roar offering. Getting back to safety, Deadman lets us know what can happen when hooking up to a BT, when you've got dooms.
It's a miracle either of you made it back. When someone with dooms hooks up to a BB, your feelings and memories cause feedback, like with a speaker. It amplifies fears and stress, and runs the risk of taking you to a place from which you will not return.
This begins to explain why we keep getting glimpses of Mads. Then Sam doesn't react well to being told to take a shower. The man should survive BTs, he's allowed to stink just a little. Heading into episode 2, Sam dreams of the beach.
Here. It's a dream catcher. Wear it when you sleep, and I'll keep the nightmares away. I'll always be with you.
Waking up in the private room, there's an unsettling aspect to Sam being sat there on the bed, because it feels like Kojima has a digital version of Norman Reedus trapped there for him to, just play with. In the private room there are facilities to shower and but not shave. And of course, when he showers and shits, it collects everything that comes out of Sam. From all the water that gets washed off when he showers, to, well, his piss and shit. You can also make funny faces in the mirror, if that's your thing. And I know it's Kojima's thing. Back in the Oval Office, Die-Hardman has a familiar face for Sam.
Our new America.
Amelie is here. Well, in spirit anyway. True to his name, Die-Hardman won't let the dream of the UCA die. So him and Amelie brief a reluctant Sam on her fate.
It took us 3 years, but we managed to make it all the way to Edge Knot City.
All the way to the Pacific. Jesus.
Yeah, but then everything went to hell. The team was wiped out, and Amelie was taken.
Amelie was taken to Edge Knot City. Turns out the Homo demons have her, and the leader has a familiar mask. The very same Sam saw before the Void Out. And can I say, this mask, and the whole outfit, just look at that, it's fucking cool. It isn't made clear if they were responsible, but the game all but makes it clear it was the demons.
You think the suicide that took out Central Knot was one of theirs?
Could be. There are extremists like the demons everywhere, plotting in the shadows. They're decentralized by nature. No one organization to rule them all. Just a common ideology.
Unlike other games, the final objective isn't to defeat one person or a faction, but to bring everyone together. And I know there are puzzle games that don't have conflict in them, but you get what I'm saying where this game isn't a game about conflict.
More than a few would rather stay isolated. Keep to themselves. Go it alone. Like you, Sam.
It's been said so many times already, and it'll be said so many times after this video publishes, but this game was eerily timed before COVID, when most of us were locked away in our homes. Back then, if you didn't go outside for a snack or a Scotch egg, then delivery drivers would be some of the only people you'd link up with on the outside. And I mean, see them, because we all had social media or Zoom or things like that. For me, I lived alone at that point and didn't even have any cats, so playing games online was my way to connect with others. That's why I racked up over 1,000 hours in PUBG. And in Stranding, We, the player, became the link for those who might be lost, or feel lost anyway, or even left behind. There are some who think differently though. Sam just can't connect America with kind words or hugs, so Die-Hardman has a Cupid for him, a device that could just be some fancy USB sticks that Sam wears around his neck, and then they would go on to sell replicas of this for an extortionate amount. Though even after Die-Hardman's spiel, Sam isn't having any of it.
I'm Sam Porter Bridges now. I'm not a Strand. Hell, I'm not even part of this outfit. You all saw to that. I'm not getting involved with you, or anyone else, ever again.
When it seems like Sam is about to walk out on the operation, in steps Deadman with BB-28. Taking their advice, Sam goes for a nap, but whilst he's asleep, his mind goes to the beach.
Listen, you are Sam Strand.
No, I'm not. Not anymore.
Here Sam and Amelie disagree on Sam's God-given name. The game is setting up a lot here, and it feels like with every cutscene, there are more questions than answers at this stage. Hell, we haven't even got going yet, and Death Stranding is so much more dense than most games on the market. Sam's mind has been changed though, because we need to get to playing the game at some point. As much as I enjoy the cutscenes, it'd be nice to get to go outside and start delivering. This will come after one last monologue from Die-Hardman, as Die-Hardman fantasizes about the chiral network being built.
4.6 billion years of history on Earth. All the wisdom and knowledge we lost since the Death Stranding will be ours again. And that, my friend, is how we'll beat this thing.
Sam has some strong words, which I would like to direct to so-called AI art.
Except anything original. Or that's got a soul. Nothing real. Just copies.
True. Which is why we'll still need porters like you.
Then, because he's not got anything better to do, Deadman becomes head of shoes.
These shoes look like they've done some serious miles. Shall I dispose of them?
Hooking up with BB, Sam and the player get another look into the past. This will be something that happens frequently throughout the game. Sometimes these are random, and sometimes they're scheduled. Being unleashed into the wide world, Sam can leave signs for other porters, as well as structures and equipment. Along the way, the landscape will also be littered with discarded cargo. Which, if this was the case, how would anyone ever get their orders? I mean, these days, if we can't order something and it doesn't come the next day via Prime, it's a fucking outrage. At the early stage of the game, as the true potential of this system hasn't been realised yet, discarded cargo can be redelivered, but for the most part it's a randomised system that just never ends. Kind of like the settlement system in Fallout 4. There's always another settlement under attack. Reaching the way station west of Capital Knot City, this requires Sam to leave the safety of the chiral network for the first time. Something I didn't notice until my first go around. Leaving the chiral network will cause transmissions to be crushed. They'll also get added static. Crossing back over the line, the transmission becomes crystal clear. Connecting the way station, this will allow structures and the like to appear thanks to the network, which always makes it easier to go back the way you came. Before getting to Port Knot City, Sam's going to have to bring a few more stations online. It isn't made clear just yet, but this is only the starting area. The game opens way up after Lake Knot City is brought online, but as a small area of a wider game, it serves its purpose. What will become the case from here on out is each delivery will be followed up by another, creating a real compelling gameplay loop. I've always wondered if actual delivery or post workers would enjoy playing this game. Or would it just give them crushing PTSD? This is one point where I wish I could just show my granddad this game and see if he would play it. He's a retired postman, so I'd love to get his professional opinion. Before Sam can get on his way, Die-Hardman is going to require a post box. These are basically here for those who don't want to deliver lost cargo, or for porters that might need some extra gear on the way, even if a bunch of the content is randomly generated. Our first case of mules is between the way station and the distribution centre, but thanks to the climb and anchor, I avoid them for now, and would do for most of the game. Though for footage purposes, and because this is a retrospective, I do fight them later. Just when Sam gets clear of them, the time falls back, which can only lead to good things, right? Getting closer to where the BTs reside, the game pulls the camera right out to the Unger deck, this setting the scene for the ghostly fellows to make their grand entrance. After a while I get this can become tiring for some, though I really kind of like it as it segments these sections, and I leave it on for the most part. Creeping around a BT heavy area, the timefall is a great way to build atmosphere, because rain is just perfect for that. It's a scientific fact. Looking at the ground, you can see plants grow and die and over again. It's a real neat touch. This all goes to make these sections feel otherworldly, because one minute the sun's out and there's not a cloud in the sky, and then just like that, you're in a horror movie.
Yeah, pretty f***ing scary, huh?
As the Unger deck locks onto a BT, this is accompanied by a music sting to really help the player get some goosebumps. Just when it seems like Sam is out of the worst of it, BB enters autotoxemia. If this happens out in the field later, it will leave Sam defenseless against those from the beach.
Something wrong, Sam?
I don't know. Kid doesn't look so hot.
Nothing to worry about. Its functions are temporarily suspended, but they can be restored. I can perform the necessary maintenance at a distribution center. Hurry though.
Connecting the distro center to the network, this will allow Deadman to take a look at BB. Here is when we start learning about the dark origins of the BB program.
Mother?
Located in the capital Knot City ICU. Brain dead, of course.
You mean still mother?
Correct. A still mother's womb facilitates a connection between the world of the dead and the BB. And you, in turn, connect yourself to a BB, granting you the ability to sense BTs.
So essentially, to make a BB, you need a still mother, which allows the baby to become a BB. This helps it see the other side. It's pretty grim stuff, especially as most characters will refer to BBs as equipment, rather than living people, even to the point that BB needs to get frequent updates to the newer software, and I thought waiting for my 4K OLED to get updates was a hassle. When did everything start getting updates? Sometimes my controller wants an update, and I can only imagine the hellscape that comes with a smart fridge. I prefer my dumb fridge just fine, thanks. Even in this early cutscene, it becomes clear that Sam has grown an attachment to BB, whilst Deadman keeps referring to her as equipment. After updating BB's software and a quick nap, it'll be time to head back out. Here we get another peek into the past, and you never know what's going to show up. But these visions do pay off in a major way, so it's worth the mystery for now.
Says the woman in the mask who's done nothing but lie to me.
Before heading out, Sam now gets a crystal collector.
As the name suggests, it provides secure storage for any crystals you gather.
As chiral crystals bunch up looking like hands coming out the floor. These are essential to fabricating new gear and structures. After retrieving some gear from a meal camp, this makes me crave another Phantom Pain-like game. I don't know why Ubisoft can't get their act together and get a new Splinter Cell out, and just copy this formula. We got Sam in Ghost Recon Wildlands, and that's a massive open world with, stealth capabilities. So once again, like in every video I do, please Ubisoft, get Splinter Cell Remake out, and then make a pseudo Phantom Pain Splinter Cell.
There was this other guy though, Army infiltration. He wore a bandana or something.
I heard he finally retired.
Really?
Yep.
It's only me.
After building our first bridge, it'll be time to head to the wind farm. But before getting there, there'll be a small stretch of woods, which really stands out in this game, because so far it's been wide open plains, some streams, and some hills. Now I don't know why these trees are so resistant to timefall, but they are. This area is a welcome biome diversity anyway, but they give me, and I'm sure other players, PTSD. BTs out in the open are bad enough, but in a confined space, they're 10 times more dangerous and terrifying. We never really encounter them inside, as Death Stranding largely avoids interiors, so I wonder if Sam will come across these in abandoned facilities, or even a city in the sequel. Heading back, there will be another banger from Low Roar. As we get to gaze across the landscape, and if you need one, take a piss. before another shower and some advertisements are on the menu. It reminds me I should really take a look at this show. Then we'll get access to our first vehicle, thanks to building a charging station. But really, this is all just means to unlocking a Bridges hat, of which I own one, and I'm actually wearing whilst I write this script. After getting the appropriately named Ludens fan to connect, it'll be time to get some lessons about the moon from Mads.
The moon. I'll show you the real thing soon. I promise.
Around this time, the player should essentially have the rhythm down. Once the mini loop of Death Stranding has been mastered, it will finally be time to head to Port North City. Here is the first real test of Death Stranding, as the player is funneled into a few tight spaces, which are, of course, filled with BTs. This setting up the end of episode 2. But of course I get just a little too impatient this time around, so BTs grab Sam and pull him off into a larger area. Here there are two options, stand and fight or run out the area. Sometimes running isn't an option, which will become clear shortly enough, but it is a faster way to escape these situations, even if it does look a little messy. With Port North City in sight, Kojima drops another track, but this time from a new band, Silent Poets. Covered in tar and all sorts, it'll be time for Sam to take another shower, when he's stopped by the hologram of Victor. Turns out he recognises the little Kojima Productions figure on Sam's BB pod. Victor then reveals he's the brother of Igor, so it's nice that guy wasn't forgotten, and after some words of warning from Amelie, it'll be finally time to rest.
Brought you an astronaut. Mankind can go anywhere, even outer space.
Leaving Port North City, Sam will have someone waiting for him. In walks the character wearing a gold mask once again, but this time he's got a lot to say. And it seems like he's controlling the BTs, meaning his levels of dooms are off the charts. They need to get Qui-Gon Jinn in here and check his levels.
The name's Higgs, the particle of God that permeates all existence.
Higgs is his name, and he's played by Troy Baker. And this performance is up there with his best, rivaling even Joel. It feels like Troy Baker was really let loose with this one. And also, he just looks so fucking cool. If I was a cosplayer, I'd dress up like Higgs.
Ah, so it was you that dragged him into all this.
Watching from a distance is a familiar face.
You see, I've come to understand the truth of the Death Stranding.
Referring to Amelie as an angel of death, Higgs drops a few spoilers here. He believes she has another purpose other than connection.
An extinction entity.
Then Higgs shows off his true power. You also have to admire the meta with his character, as he breaks the fourth wall, referring to those players not quite expecting what they got with a new Kojima game. His past games in the Metal Gear Solid series essentially featured a rogues gallery of bosses. They all had unique looks, personalities and abilities, with no two ever feeling the same. They were almost a reward for the player as they cleared certain sections of the game, so this is a fun nod towards that.
So how about it? Aren't you getting tired of the grind? Isn't this what you've been waiting for this whole time? A game over.
Higgs is what many players come to Kojima games for, a wild character with even more wild writing. And of course Kojima knew this was a great way to blur the lines. And it's also nice that we get someone from the video game realm in this game, as there are so many famous faces here. It feels like Troy Baker is represented. This now means Sam is the last line of defense against the giant BT and Port North City.
All it'll take is one itty bitty void out to blow us all to kingdom come.
So this time, the player can't just run away. Unlike other fights that they might have triggered before, this one has buildings bubbling up through the tar, turning this game into a 3D platformer as you try and avoid the BT. It also means to quickly maneuver around the sludge. Again, it's another way to pull the player right out of the world, just as they become comfortable. And honestly, it's a cool idea for a battle arena, as the past seeps up through the tar that sucked it all away. Beating the larger BT is never really a challenge though, on normal anyway. Then again, this isn't really what the player comes to Death Stranding for. They've got packages to deliver. Just throw Sam's piss, shit and blood at it until it melts away. Sure, there is a reason as to why the body fluids of Sam works on BTs, but maybe this is just a Kojima fetish. Running out of any means to tackle larger BTs won't be an issue either, as other Sams will emerge from the goo to hand the player more equipment. This is meant to symbolise other porters, showing solidarity with all the players trying to connect America. Right now it's just grenades, but later on there'll be all kinds of equipment to Sam's disposal. After defeating the giant BT, there'll be a bounty of chiralium in its wake. Now at the point of no return, for now, Sam will need to hitch a ride to the next city, and the main area of the game. It's hard to believe I've gone into this much detail and not even got to the main section yet.
Snack?
Laser Do surely is. Fragile is here to help Sam to get to where he needs to go, and drop a little background knowledge on Higgs, the man behind the golden mask.
You did business with terrorists? Whoever pays, huh?
He wasn't like that back then.
So what's your angle? You want to save the world, or you want to fuck it all up like him?
I just wished things were different, alright?
Becoming cargo himself, it'll be time to take a ride on Fragile's boat.
Come on, we're the only cargo left.
Picking up on their voyage, Sam still isn't quite sure about his host, though he does share one thing with Fragile. They both have haunted pasts. But it's been a long day, so Sam practically passes out.
Listen, I have something to ask of you. It has to do with that asshole, Higgs.
Back on the beach in a dream, Sam looks into the past with Amelie. We get the origins of his dream capture and a few more answers into how the beach works.
So long as you have a body to return to, you can't come and go as you please.
So you can't just come back east through here?
Not until you make us whole again, Sam.
After another banger from Low Roar, Sam makes his way to Lake Noxie. And there's something that I didn't notice here until now. Something that was announced as a feature in the sequel, On the Beach. This small section takes place at night. For all the hours I've played this game, I totally forgot that like 97% of this takes place in the day. Making the delivery to the terminal inside, we find out what happens to major cities in this area.
But that all changed a year ago, when the Separatists carried out their attacks. One took out Middle Knot City. They detonated nukes from the old days. Half of South Knot City went up in the other. Casualties were devastating.
During another dream, a certain necklace seems to be relevant to the relationship of Sam and Amelie. This will be very relevant later. Waking up, Fragile is just here in Sam's private room, but she comes bearing gifts at least.
Something to eat?
Now Sam gets to hear more about events from a year ago, but from Fragile's perspective.
We were the only people making deliveries out here. This was our territory. Until Higgs fucked it all up. Me, the Express, our reputation, all of it.
Here is where Sam also learns about Fragile's ability to teleport, though it's only limited to her beach. This is where the multiverse is also brought up, but thankfully Kojima keeps this concept to a minimum. And he actually gives teleporting consequence, you know, like any good writer, because it's a must, otherwise his ability becomes OP. Really, this is just a lengthy way to inform the player they have access to fast travel now, something I never really use in games like Death Stranding, or for example Red Dead Redemption 2. As you know, it takes away from the main point and mechanics of this game, but I certainly know a fair few people that would have hated this game if there wasn't fast travel. Each to their own, I guess. One of the perks in the private room, when Sam isn't pissing or shitting, is the consumption of tasty beverages. Fun random fact, but this game actually influenced my choice in energy drink. The cans are labelled Bridget's Energy now, but back around launch, they were actually cans of Monster. There are some losers that got upset over this, but I'm sure none of them are watching. But yeah, I used to drink Relentless a lot. Then Rockstar because they offered codes for XP in Gears 5, which was surprisingly a great game. It could have been my game of the year if this didn't come out. But then I jumped to Monster thanks to Kojima, and I definitely consumed way too many. I'm a little bit of an addict. The craftsman, the engineer, and the elder will be up next, to help the chiral network reach the next major settlement. Sam is both a delivery man and a modem installer, ensuring that everyone has high-speed internet, because what is life without a decent internet connection? Each one of these settlements has an extra layer to them, being not trusting the UCA, so they agree to join their network and nothing else. Or they have something to say about Fragile.
Rumors say that she caused the explosion at Middle Knot City, and there's a part of me that believes it.
Some don't trust her, while others praise her. If the player chooses to, they can eventually confront Fragile about these rumours, and the whole nuclear incident that went down. But in the meantime, if you're like me, you'll more than likely become addicted to building roads. Seriously, this is essential to the Death Stranding experience. That and I just love building them roads apparently. These benefit the player, and of course, make travelling across some sections trivial, and they also come with their own power strip in the middle, ensuring that vehicles won't run out of power. These will also populate in other players' worlds, or at least contribute to their construction, and this is what a Strand game is. As pretentious as it might sound, being that whatever the player does in their world will help another player's world, or a certain group in a randomly assigned set. So you might think you don't have enough resources to build a road, then you find that actually, someone else has already donated through their own world, meaning that every time someone contributes, it will help someone else, bringing the world together and connecting us and all that shit. And if you think about it, was this concept in beta form in Metal Gear Solid 5 The Phantom Pain? You know when we all had to disarm nukes but no one did, so we have to thank those people that unlocked that secret cutscene. Because why would everyone want to get rid of their nuclear arsenal? Come on, don't be silly. This is one element that I love though, and it complements the growing progress of a unified world game, giving you faith in other players, unlike what many of us were raised on in those Call of Duty and Gears of War lobbies. I'm not sure how the devs managed to pull this off, but there always seems to be a postbox, a generator, or later on, ziplines that come in for the clutch, again making this feel like this is one unified struggle, even though much of the game is a solitary experience. Though if another porter is nearby, they will call back to Sam when he calls out hello, just to let you know that you're not alone.
Hey!
So before I progress with the story, I ensure the interstate is back up and running. Then the craftsman has a side quest before moving on. Thanks, Heartman. Entering the ruins of Middle Knot City, we get to see the result of Higgs' handiwork. The aftermath is devastating for sure. I almost felt like this would hit harder if Sam could explore a city before it was destroyed. If not just any other city in the game. That way we could see what life is really like. But then again, I guess the point of this game is to be isolated. I can't deny I really miss seeing how life would go on during the apocalypse. Or post-apocalypse at this point. Now I get why they didn't feature this, due to the tight turnaround for a modern Kojima game, so hopefully we get to see a bit of this in the sequel. Entering the city, the weather changes fast. Due to the sheer amount of death in the area, this has become a BT hotspot, and probably always will be. And for those living in Britain, this probably means something a bit different, you know, as British Telecom hosts internet and things like that over here, so a BT hotspot wouldn't be such a bad thing maybe? I wish there was more of this though, or even some more old world structures in the game. I get it there are a few, but we could have done with some more. The ruins funnel the player into uncomfortable situations, causing them to bring Sam closer to those hotspots than they'd like. But we have to push on and get the toolbox for the craftsman. This section, and frankly any other section that includes BTs, is always dripping with atmosphere, though when possible, I get the hell out of Dodge as fast as I can. Before getting on with the car network expansion, Die-Hardman tasks Sam with reclaiming some property, and this will serve to help power some little helpers later on. But because I have a sickness, I end up building more roads before returning the lost cargo, because the loop of Death Stranding just hits different. Though now this order is a perfect excuse to dive into the mules. Early on in Death Stranding, entering a mule camp with cargo on your back isn't suicide, but it will get Sam found out in no time, thanks to the perimeter sensors that ping cargo regularly. Unlike some other NPCs that we'll meet later, mules don't kill, they just want cargo from any unexpected importer, because these fellows have become addicted to the stuff. Going loud on these camps is an option, but this can get really messy, as mules will scramble out of everywhere for that cargo. Killing them is also a no-go, because doing so will result in having to take them to the incinerator. Nobody wants that. There is normally long grass around the area as well, just to help with stealthing around camps. Because come on, long grass is a staple at this point. One day devs should make long grass a disadvantage to the player, like I don't know, throw some raptors in there or something. But in Death Stranding, the long grass is a handy place to get pinged, especially when leaving the camp. because you know it gives you a chance to break eyesight and get the bugger going after you. The bowler gun is one of the earlier weapons that Sam has to his disposal, and it's a real winner. As Death Stranding mostly takes place in open areas, it's super easy to use, making it really effective to take down frantic mules. Aiming at the head will knock them out, but if the bowler locks her on the torso, then they'll be left wiggling around on the ground until they're knocked out or set free. And like I said earlier, normally I would avoid them, partly because I love me some stealth, and also partly because Death Stranding doesn't feel like a game where you should get into combat all that much, until there's no other option anyway. And I'm going to keep saying this, but these camps give off MGS5 vibes. Though when a bunch of mules come rolling up in their trucks, it isn't anywhere as near as dangerous as a bunch of Soviets, because as we know, mules don't kill. All their weapons are non-lethal, with them mainly carrying shock sticks. They're like spears but without the tips on the end. When Sam runs far enough away, the mules will just throw these at him, in the attempt to stun Sam to get his cargo. It really can be a scramble match to get in and out. Mules also have a sneaky piece of kit to grab cargo off Sam's back, but the player will also eventually get access to this as well, so they can pay them back. And sometimes you just need to kick the shit out of them to get through it all. The Strand is also a helpful means of silent takedown, but I actually forgot to use this until way later in the game. Apparently it's been imbued with Sam's blood to make him more special, so it comes in handy for those boss fights later. In moments like this, with mules, terrorists, and especially BTs, BB can get a little upset and even start to cry, and could even cry herself into autoexemia.
Someone's happy.
Getting to the distribution centre south of Lake North City, there'll be another famous face to greet Sam. Kojima must really love himself some Edgar Wright to put him in such a prominent location, and I don't blame him to be honest. Connecting this distro centre will help bring bots online. Then thanks to Die-Hardman, it'll be time to take a nap and head back to the beach. It's brief, but we get a glimpse of what Timefall could do to your hands, just like what happened to Fragile, who just happens to be in Sam's shower. Here is where Fragile gets real about the situation.
She's in bed with terrorists. Don't trust her. She's just another dumbass Higgs fucked over. She's a goddamn hero, that woman.
As she's being judged by those who don't have the full story. That and what America truly means to people. Each time Sam gets to sit down with Fragile, the player gets a little bit more into the backstory of Higgs, before he became a master of dooms. That and who truly brought the nuke to Middle Knot City.
Somehow they got a hold of our security passes and used them to sneak into cities. And just like that, we're delivering guns and bombs instead of medicine, and I didn't even know. We were just cogs in a terrorist machine. Higgs was behind it all. And on top of that, he got his hands on an old-school nuke that I ended up carrying right into Middle Knot City.
This is where Fragile stops being mysterious, and more endearing, as she opens herself up to Sam. She's a character that was screwed over time and again, after the passing of her father. She's just looking for what's next, a way back, and she sees that in Sam.
You telling me then?
Yeah. It was me. I blew it up.
But first, that requires revenge on Higgs.
Everything's true. Except for all the lies. I don't give a damn about bridges or putting America back together. But I'm not about to let Higgs and some terrorists take my father's legacy and shit all over it. That's why I came to you.
Leaving the private room, we get another look into the past, as it seems Mads is running away from something, or someone. After that nap, bots are now up and running.
The test was a success.
The weather station and the Timefall farm will be next on the list. That and Sam can now construct private rooms of his own. The terrain also starts to get really treacherous around here, as jagged rocks stretch for as far as the eye can see, and they hug the river all the way up to the waterfall. There's also an open plain with a crevasse running around it, and here another mule camp's going to be plopped in the middle. So the player can use this area to travel through, but it's going to be a bit longer than using the roads, or going through the rocks straight on foot. You really need those roads later on. Though not all settlements have roads, especially the Timefall farm, which is surrounded by 2 more mule camps. This is around the time the Timefall shelters become unlocked as well, a structure that allows Sam to wait out the rain, as long as it's not contextual. That and it can fix up some of the cargo on Sam's back, which will become essential if you run out of container spray, especially when transporting VOG gas. Heading to the film director, the surrounding area looks a bit otherworldly, even a bit like the surface of Mars. He also has a gift for Sam.
A token of my appreciation. Take it. I insist.
Something that completes his look. Well, for my Sam anyway. And for, well, me in real life to be honest, because I'm never really not wearing sunglasses.
So long, Sam Bridges. Thank you.
They also need to be Carl Gold, just like the Bridges hat. This then leads to another order of a time limit, as Sam heads to the junk dealer, and when making the delivery, Sam gets a glimpse of a woman holding an hourglass, instead of the actual dealer. When he does show up, the junk dealer isn't shy about airing his views.
All because of some terrorist nutjobs. And their buddies at Fragile fucking Express. Not to mention the Bridges assholes who had to go and kick the hornet's nest. Whatever. Let's see the goods.
A bit like one of those annoying people online. After making the delivery, he doesn't have kind words for Sam either, but it turns out there might be a way to win this guy over. But before that, he's got the cheek to post another order. This order takes Sam to another ruined city, and not much remains, but what does is yet again super effective at setting the scene. Approaching what was once a busy high street, a bridge looms overhead, with structures either side. Some are shelling themselves, or on the verge of crumbling. These and the surrounding debris make collecting 60k of old components a cruel, and if you haven't guessed already, BT's littered this area. If these are alerted to Sam, it's not easy for him to escape either, you know, with all the obstacles in the way. Just like the ruins in Middle Knot City, I really wish Death Stranding had more of these areas, just to shake up the variety a bit, because walking around ruins like this makes it feel like the player is transported to an entirely new game. Here I get caught up between a bunch of BTs, so they drag Sam off for a boss fight. With all the rubble in the way, it makes escaping this BT a real hassle, but it does give some shelter for this large BT's pseudo-ghostly machine gun, looking like a beast out of Bloodborne, or something along those lines. I didn't have the gear for this fight, so I just legged it. That and BB wasn't having the best of the times. Making the delivery, we get another look at the woman with the hourglass, and it really does feel like Kojima's asking her to make a bunch of shit up, like she's just awkwardly standing there being filmed. Again, the dealer has an attitude, but Fragile steps in to adjust it. He then hands over the chiral hourglass, as well as a new skeleton.
That's a little something from the junk dealer.
Which is probably the best point to bring up skeletons. These fix to Sam's legs, and I normally stick with the power skeleton, even if the dealer is generous enough to hand over a speed one. There is also an all-terrain variety, but I just prefer to be able to carry more. Though there are benefits to all three, no doubt. Travelling to the chiral artist, the hourglass has to be carried by hand. You know, just to shake things up as Sam passes more BTs, and a landscape that looks truly alien. Off to the right, you can see the result of some of Higgs' handiwork, before arriving at the destination.
Just you, yourself, and me.
Then out pops a woman that we've seen this whole time. The chiral artist and her mother have been held up here ever since the incident.
I made this for him, you know. When the terrorists attacked, my mother and I barely escaped with our lives. I tried to find him afterwards. I did.
Apparently both the junk dealer and the artist thought each other were dead, as the artist continues her story.
I should never have given up. Deep down, I knew he was out there somewhere.
Now the artist is cargo, as Sam heads back with her on his back. It's certainly a strange way of doing things, seeing as she could just walk back with Sam, you know, after a change of outfit at least. I get carrying a corpse or someone who can't really walk, but this is totally different.
It'll swallow you up if you let it. It's bottomless. Or so claim the folks who use these places to dispose of terrarium-contaminated waste.
On the way back, the artist gives Sam a lesson on tar, and it's time for another low roar anthem. In his efforts to reconnect America, Sam has some spare time to reunite a love-struck couple.
I can't believe you're alive.
That's my line, silly.
Now back together, the artist smashes the delicate cargo, making that first leg of the run a bit pointless. But looking at the two together, it looks like they're going to get happily married. But if Sam keeps up with his emails later, it seems like this might not be happy ever after. It's now finally time to connect South Knot City, but first, Sam will need a rest, which then leads to another vision of Mads, who's recreating my Friday night. He's clearly grieving over the woman in bed, and if it isn't clear by now, he's mentioned BB by name as he looks into the camera.
Just you and me now.
This just leads to more questions as to how or when this took place. Deadman was clear saying that BBs only last for a year max, so how are these BB memories from so long ago?
I'll keep you safe. No matter what.
Just before the next leg of the journey continues, a strange fella wanders in with an extra package for Sam. Now I wonder if anyone was fooled by this as he seemingly comes out of nowhere, though there's probably a bunch of players out there who don't know who Troy Baker is.
Sorry about that, the system seems to be on the fritz. One of the packages wasn't processed properly and got left out of the order. It says here the client is Fragile herself. Someone double-tagged it so the system couldn't tell whether it's for Fragile Express or Bridges. Anywho, really sorry for the holdup, and careful. The contents are fragile. It's okay.
On the way to South Knot City, Sam can either go straight there or stop off at a private room. If the player decides to stop off, then Fragile will be there waiting. This is where Sam discovers he's carrying a nuke. Higgs is at it again. So now the best place to dispose of this will be in the Tar Lake, that Higgs created after a nuke went off. Though the player isn't diligent enough, they can deliver the nuke to its destination, which will then destroy it.
It says here the client is Fragile herself. Careful, the contents are fragile.
After throwing the nuke in the lake, Fragile reappears to reminisce on her past. Sam tries to lift her up, but the past still weighs heavy on Fragile. What follows is one of the more impactful scenes in Death Stranding, as Higgs essentially forces Fragile to walk the plank, with little over 15 minutes left on the clock.
Do you want to live out your days as damaged goods? Or would you rather take damage for the goods?
Get to the point.
Higgs has set out to really punish Fragile. Now Fragile has to choose, either to save herself or the city and everyone in it.
Hell, seems like a fair exchange to me.
This is also where the subject of masks come into play a bit more, with Higgs wanting to hide his face behind the golden Egyptian death mask. We also see Die-Hardman hiding his face behind a mask, and the reasons why haven't yet been revealed. Removing his mask, we finally get to see Higgs' face. Well, we kind of did earlier, but his face was obscured by that hat.
You see, the truth is, I don't much care for my face. That's why I hide it.
With a photorealistic rendition of old Troy himself, and after all this time, Troy playing the part of a villain just fits. Leaving Fragile no choice, she's sent out into the rain, with only her face covered from the timefall.
Don't worry, I won't mess it up. See, I want your face to be a kind of testament.
A As she runs through the timefall, Fragile's body starts to age, but she doesn't whittle away like the animals did, which means timefall must affect humans differently. Just like that guy we saw in the opening. Looking at his Cheshire Cat grin, Higgs is clearly enjoying the pain he's causing. Back in the present, Sam tries to reassure Fragile that she's the hero in all this, but she's too consumed by revenge, and she wants Sam to help her get it.
But promise me you'll leave him alive. There's something I want to ask him to his face.
I didn't think you were capable of torture.
Am now. And I want to know why he betrayed me.
After another cryo-bite, those poor worms. It's time for Sam to make that delivery, and cue up another low-roar song.
Because I never said no.
Once the delivery's been made, Amelie has something to tell Sam, but she gets cut off. Then Mama informs us there's a chiral spike occurring right near Sam.
Right in your vicinity. These numbers are off the charts.
Investigating the spike, Sam and BB are sucked up into the air, along with a bunch of crabs and even a whale or two, as they're taken to the beach. Every beach is different though, and this one is especially unique, as it seems to be the setting of the First World War. Skull soldiers emerge from the tar, wearing fatigues from the time period, as they're attached to a man, the very one he's been seeing in his visions once he connects to BB. But this rendition of him doesn't seem friendly anymore. Why does Mads need to be all naked though? The combat veteran, as he's now known, is on a mission. Waking up in another time, Sam is in the middle of a battlefield dating back to World War I, the First Great War. All around him a battle rages. Yet these are just ghosts from the past, but not like the BTs he's come to face in the real world. These are just echoes. Though if Sam sticks around too long, he can take some damage from some crossfire. Cut off from the UCA and bridges, Sam now has to follow his Odradek, hoping that will lead him to the way out. Traversing the trenches, the battlefield is littered with skeletons. The First World War was unlike any other, with neither side really coming out victorious in the end. And now it's the setting for the game's next boss, as the veteran has now put his clothes on, but in modern fatigues, unlike the skeleton unit. Resting on a web of barbed wire, it looks like Annie from Toy Story's been about, with broken dolls scattered all over the place. Summoning a cigarette, the veteran takes a long drag on the death stick, before entering the battlefield. Fun fact, Kojima made smoking a massive part of Mads' character, as he observed the actor taking many smoking breaks. So much like Norman, he drew from the man himself, just to finish them both off. For a game based on cargo delivering, there are some solid third-person shooting mechanics in Death Stranding. Thanks to the UI being locked to Sam, everything is where the player needs it to be, just right in their vision, rather than being plastered all over the screen. Now when Sam gets hurt, he'll draw blood from blood bags, but when they run dry, cryobites will be the next port of call. Those poor worms. The player will also have to factor in each bullet, because if they're coated in Sam's blood, they're going to draw from the blood bags as well. This is essential for skeletons and BTs, so the mechanic of blood management really kicks in once everything kicks off. Walking through the trenches, when Sam isn't engaged in battle, we can hear the veteran mumbling to himself. This resonates through the battlefield and paints a clear picture that the soldier doesn't quite know where he is. He wants his BB, but at the same time he doesn't know where it is.
Where am I?
One interesting aspect to the encounter, the veteran and the skeletons are searching for Sam, but they're not being loud about it. They're taking everything slow, being more tactical, unlike a giant BT which would hammer through all those buildings. One-on-one counters are simple enough, but soon as a firefight breaks out, the skeletons will home in. Flanking Sam by any means, the player's gonna have to keep vigilant because the skeletons are gonna come from every direction. Finding the veteran for the first time can take a little while, but this fight is in phases, so once the veteran's been beaten once, he'll teleport away, though thankfully he leaves a trail in his wake.
Fall back.
Just like the game in the open world, Sam doesn't find ammo, but rather, he just finds a new gun, which means there's going to be a real stack of gear on his back unless the player gets rid of the old stuff. After so many deliveries, this is a welcome change of pace, and in this encounter, the AI doesn't seem dumb either. The setting of the trenches is also just so unique. It's just something we don't see that much in video games, what with World War II being the war that many games use as a backdrop. I mean, it made more sense for gameplay at least, but around the time and since Death Stranding, games have been delving more into this setting, like Conscript, an exceptional indie survival horror game made by just one man. You should really take a look if you've not already. As a real history enthusiast, I would just sit back and watch the terrifying vistas, rather than just go and pursue the objective straight away. Everything is period accurate, because of course, Kojima wouldn't have it any other way. I almost had BB go into auto-exemia because I just got carried away a little. Finishing off the mystery man, he'll fall to the ground. But as Sam stands over him, the veteran will come back to life and try and snatch BB. It's at points like this I can see my style choice for Sam breaking the mood, but you can't hate on the Carl Gold hat and shades too much. It's a great combo. As Sam is brought in close, he gets another vision to the past. Now Sam knows where BB came from, before he found her with Igor that is. So was BB the child of the veteran in the first place? The latest vision clearly shows he has been pursued before the camera cut to black. Waking up in the same spot, Mama is on the line trying to get hold of Sam.
Sam, do you read me?
Yeah.
Everything okay?
Where am I?
Say again?
What happened to me?
For them out in the normal world, it's been no time at all, whilst for Sam, it looks like it's been hours for him in that war zone. Time differences between the beach and the real world can be quite drastic, but with that revelation, Sam's next port of call will be to head to Mama, making this one of the shortest episodes by far, with it essentially just being based around the conflict with the veteran. From here the episodes are more liberal with their timings, and none really reach the lengths of 3 again. Unless you're like me and get distracted by building even more roads, or taking on extra or non-essential orders. And there are also other outposts that need to be linked up, which aren't part of the main quest, like the cosplayer, who just happens to have a very familiar guest.
Hey Sam! Sam Bridges! Welcome to our summer home by the falls.
Yeah, for some reason Conan O'Brien's wearing an otter hat. Then he proceeds to give the hat to Sam, before going off on a little diatribe. After this encounter, Sam has the otter hat, but now has a hood, because why not? I think I used this quite a bit in my first playthrough, but not in this one at all really. Now with all those distractions out of the way, it's finally time to go and see Mama, but not before the veteran decides to give BB a gift. Dressed in a Santa hat no less.
You like me to open it? Oh, what do we have here? What do we have here? A spaceman.
As silly as this cutscene seems, it does have some importance, what with it showing a very significant revolver.
I'm done fighting. You're all that matters to me now, so I'm gonna stay right here with you. My friend will know what to do with this one. Well, Merry Christmas. Ho, 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 ho.
Walking into Mama's lab, Sam's Zodiac starts to freak out, as if there were BTs all over the shop, but all looks relatively clear. Normally you don't hear Rockabye Baby playing when BTs are about, but on the ceiling, there is in fact a BT, but it's a baby one. Instinctively, Sam holds his breath, but Mama reassures him that everything is cool.
Don't worry, Sam. She doesn't bite. Glad you made it.
Unlike any other BT Sam's come across so far, this one is tethered to Mama because it's her daughter. Thanks to the nature of how this baby became a BT, this leaves both of them anchored to this spot, whilst the baby BT resides in the world of the living.
She's hungry.
What the?
The baby even still cries for her mother's milk, even though technically she's not drinking it. This is limbo in one of its most depressing forms. This is such a young soul who never got to live, trapped in this forever infant state. Reviewing Sam's cufflinks, they've recorded everything from Sam's last journey to the beach, so this proves he wasn't lying. Chiral spikes show that Sam's Cupid is malfunctioning, so it's gonna need to get fixed. And to get it fixed, Sam will need to speak to the scientist in Mountain Knot City. If Sam doesn't get it fixed, then this can mean bad news for the world of the living.
Or worse, we cause another death stranding.
Just before Sam's next order can commence, the lights will start to flicker in Mama's lab, which causes her daughter to cry. Mama tries to soothe her as she explains how this baby BT came to be. The same terrorists that caused so much pain throughout America, those aligned with Higgs, bombed the hospital that Mama was in, while she was waiting for a C-section. Trapped under the rubble with the basics to survive, Mama eventually gave birth to her daughter. Ironically, Mama's BT baby saved her, as she drew attention to those looking for survivors, saving her in death. Sam isn't sure about this bond between life and death, and expresses that maybe it's time for Mama to move on.
You want to live your life in the shadow of the dead?
Come on. You, of all people, you chose the dead over the living. Why else would you be here?
Then because Sam's blood is so special, Mama wants a sample of it for her studies.
There. All done.
With all the heavy subject matter, it's clear that Mama needs some time to think this over, and have some quality time with her ghostly daughter. So sending Sam on his way, she encourages Sam to keep reconnecting humanity, even if they're unclear on what the chiral spikes could mean.
It's the only plan we've got. Good luck, Sam.
Die-Hardman then lays out the next course of action for Sam. The distro center south of Lake Knot, the way station north of Mountain Knot, the distro center north of Mountain Knot, and finally, the last leg of the journey, Mountain Knot City. On the first leg of the journey to the mountain, there's a relic of the old world. This is another BT heavy area, and inside the warehouse is a memory chip. One of the many collectible memory chips in Death Stranding. Here is just another example of where the tone can change real fast. One moment the player is approaching a beautiful vista, and the next, they're in a creepy defunct warehouse with it raining outside. Connecting the way station north of Mountain Knot, there's going to be an urgent order to the distro station north of Mountain Knot.
Now'd be a damn good time to do it too, as they just sent out an SOS call.
Passing by this region's furnace, the mountain is always on Sam's left. There's a sheer scale to it as it casts a shadow over the surrounding landscape. And in the words of Todd Howard,
that mountain is not just a backdrop. You can walk all the way to the top of that mountain.
Really, you can.
Who's laughing now?
Though at this point it might seem a little out of reach. Even with the limit to the distro center, 40 minutes is still quite generous, for a seasoned porter anyway, well until they climb the crest of the hill into the next valley, which is lined with more trees, just like we saw at the wind farm, but thankfully there's no BTs here. But there is another danger hidden just behind them, with there being a local terrorist cell. These are former mules that have taken a dark turn. In the words of Die-Hardman, stealing cargo just doesn't do it for them anymore. Mayhem and destruction is their drug of choice now. This leaves their placement in question though. What with them being so close to the distro center? But Death Stranding does play with scale to an extent. Yes, you cross America in this game, but it's a truncated version, for obvious reasons. Unlike the mules, the terrorists will shoot on sight, and this time it's to kill. Thankfully, the player will have access to a range of weapons to pacify them though, without causing death, because you really don't want to kill anyone in Death Stranding. But if they are killed, you're gonna have to lug their body over to the incinerator. So it's best to creep around their camp MGS5 style, or take the very long way around like I did. But in this game, Sam has more than just rubber bullets to play with. Using some ladders can be a handy way to escape, as the terrorists don't really use them and just take the long way around. Whenever an order requires the player to infiltrate a terrorist camp, this can get far messier than the mules. Because unlike the mules, the terrorists don't come in to beat you up, they stay back and shoot. They also have gun turrets around, and it always feels like there's more terrorists than mules. You have to be real cerebral around these sections, or Sam's gonna find his way back to the beach. So mostly speeding by them or ramming into those pricks will do the job. Before heading up the mountain, Die-Hardman encourages Sam to take another break. Waking back up on the beach, all Sam has now is his Cupid, whilst BB lays there crying. The dream or vision takes a turn fast, almost as if Higgs planned this to taunt Sam, as the golden necklace is once again featured prominently. Waking up, Amelie has a message, and then pleads Sam to keep going on.
Higgs and his people came. They finally reached Edge Knot City. There's no escape for me now. Everyone's dead, the city's destroyed, and what's left is crawling with BTs. They're everywhere.
Leaving the private room, we now see the continuation of the veterans' escape. Before heading up the mountain, Deadman delivers some backstory behind the resurrection of the BB program, with BB-28 playing a key role in these events. It looks like the BB program was used to understand the Death Stranding, around the time shit went down.
A fact I think someone may have tried to conceal, judging by the absence of BB-28's service record.
The final leg of the journey up the mountain sees the player having to be a little bit more careful, because this cargo is an antimatter bomb. This is needed to deal with the emerging tar problem up in Mountain Knot City, and if the bomb's disturbed in any major way, it's gonna go off. For me, I choose to drive the truck as far as I can up the mountain. But because roads haven't been built yet, Sam's gonna have to do a little bit of this on foot. More low raw plays, but that doesn't help me keep my balance, as Sam falls over and I get turned into antimatter. Being more careful the second time around, someone once again decides to shoot the messenger.
That voice, is that you, Mama? You hit your head there, Mama?
I'm not yours, and yours is no kind of mother.
Alright, enough games, Mama.
I don't think you heard me, mister. Mountain Knot City is telling you and the UCA to take a hike.
This woman wants nothing to do with the Chiral Network or the UCA. She looks like Mama, she sounds like Mama, but she isn't. It's Lochner. Heading back down the mountain, Sam's gonna need Mama's assistance if he's gonna get Lochner on side. Mountain Knot City is essential to the expansion of the Chiral Network, as there's no other major settlement on the mountain. Returning to Mama's lab, she's fallen asleep working too much. Thankfully though, this wasn't in vain. She has some new cufflinks for Sam.
And they're weapons too now.
That's right. Cord cutters.
And these can be used to take out BTs with one fell swoop. The only thing is, Sam's gonna have to get uncomfortably close to the BTs, because you're essentially stealthing the BTs before they can react. But before he can get out in the field and use these cuffs, Sam's gonna have to use them to cut the cord between Mama and her daughter. This is a somber moment, and you can clearly see Mama cares for her baby, up until the very end. No parent should ever have to outlive their child, but in cases such as this, Mama had to make the ultimate sacrifice.
Truth is, she's not really my daughter.
And it turns out her daughter was actually the daughter of Lochner, with the egg being supplied by Lochner and then hosted in Mama's womb. It gets deeper when you find out Mama did this behind Lochner's back, which caused the two to fall out, and then after being tied to the lab, they fell out of communication. Cutting the cord isn't done in a cutscene either. Kojima forces the player to take action, and I can only imagine a hit parent's harder than me.
Do it.
But still, this is one of the more tougher button prompts to hit. Cutting the cord, Mama falls to the floor, losing all means to do much at all, meaning that Sam's now going to have to carry her up the mountain. At least Mama has an excuse though, unlike the choral artist.
Alright, Sam. Take me on the Lochner.
Leaving the lab, the player better be stocked up on blood, piss, and shit, as Higgs shows up once again.
I had a special surprise prepped and everything. But it looks to me like your hands are full.
He summons another massive BT for Sam to fight, though with Mama on Sam's back, it might be best to make a tactical retreat. Navigating the terrain and tar, whilst trying not to become a void out or lunch for the BT, now all there is to do is head back up the mountain. And moments like this become quite contentious with some players. You know, the ones that Higgs was speaking about in that first encounter. I imagine they wanted the next dopamine hit after an epic conflict, or for the game to cut to black, just for them to be up the mountain already. But that just isn't the point of Death Stranding. Sure, I love those Kojima style cutscenes as much as the next fan. Hell, I'm writing this while still wearing my Bridges hat, and I can also see my replica BB pod off to the side. As corny as this might sound, a major part of Death Stranding is about the journey, forcing the player to earn those points of conflict, or revelations, or even a nice long cutscene. It's about spreading joy and reconnecting people after the world almost fell apart. All this to bring America back together again. And yeah, I know that's one of the biggest fantasies of this game, but just roll with it. Maybe the Chiral Network doesn't have Twitter, or any social media. With the mountain off to the distance, again it almost seems impossible that you'll be up there, but while Sam walks around enjoying the silence, Mama's going to break it from time to time. This led to me wanting to take the majority of this journey on foot.
Still have nightmares about it. Still hear the crack before it all came tumbling down. I've been scared to death of bridges ever since. And yeah, I know how that must sound considering our employer. I'm scared of the dark too.
Traversing the paths I had forged already, much like our ancestors would, eventually turning paths into roads, settlements into cities, and then growing a network between humanity, much like Sam is setting out to do once again, with Low Roar playing once more. Mama has some last words to say before reaching the destination.
I could hear my mother's heartbeat. Hers and Lochner's.
Reaching Mountain Knot City, the two sisters finally reconnect. Such is the theme of Death Stranding.
I'm sorry.
And much like many characters in this game, Mama's name is only really a code name. Mama's true name is Melingan. This being the name of one of two twin asteroids that crashed down in Sweden. The other asteroid's name? Well, it was Lochner. After they reconnect, Mama passes on from this form. Though her final words are reserved to Lochner, pleading with her to fix Sam's Cupid, all after informing Lochner of their daughter's fate.
I couldn't save our child, but you can save our world. Only you.
Melingan and Lochner finally air their messy history. There's now closure for both, as Lochner fixes Sam's Cupid, stabilising it once again. It also turns out that Melingan actually died buried under that rubble, with her daughter still inside her. Her car passed on, but her heart remained in the world of the living, and she wasn't wearing both cuffs, which hid her vital signs. Everything surrounding Mama, and then eventually Melingan and Lochner, is just sad as hell, with Melingan's whole section being a real memorable part of the game.
She's my daughter. And I'm her mama.
Only then to just be immediately replaced by Lochner, to the point where they merged together.
Melingan. Lochner.
Like I guess they were one being at one point, inside their mother's womb, just like those asteroids. But then like those asteroids, they were broken in two, and it really pulls the rug from under this moment, as there's still so much game left. Because after a while it can almost be forgotten, as Lochner takes over as the scientist in Sam's ear. Margaret Qualley is a great actor and I know Kojima wanted to keep her around, but it feels a bit, I don't know, it's messy. Moments like this need to breathe rather than just moving on to the next thing. But I guess the reasoning for this is they become the same character, even to the point that one of Lochner's eye colours changes. And this is meant to resemble Malingan, but you're rarely going to ever see it, to be honest, because you rarely see Lochner in person after this, and when you do see her in hologram form, it's not really that noticeable. Waking up in the private room, Sam goes to check on BB, but the pod is missing. This is when Deadman shows up in the flesh.
Looking for this? Surprise! Fragile warped me here. I finally got to visit the beach. Well, her beach. Don't worry, I didn't come all this way for the sightseeing. Your beloved BB has a serious issue.
After giving us all a refresh on how bridge babies work, Deadman then has an update. Until now, he and the game have been pushing forward the narrative that BBs are nothing more than just equipment. That's because they were born from still mothers, meaning they would never have a normal life.
It's because we're partners.
Partners? Sam, a BB's a tool, not a human being. Bridge, yes. Baby, no.
They live out their lives in the pod to serve the living in the struggle against the dead, and after a year or so, they're decommissioned. Well, now this BB is breaking the mold, escaping limbo and shifting over to the world of the living. She's grown an affinity for Sam, and Sam's grown a liking to her as well, to the point that he's actually named his BB. The BB is shedding the bridge part and becoming a real human by growing and accumulating memories.
Doesn't sound like a problem to me.
It's hardware, Sam. Manufactured for a purpose. A purpose it cannot fulfill outside the pod.
Deadman has noticed all this, and now he's stepping in because BB doesn't have much time. He needs to reset the hardware as he keeps calling it, meaning that Sam's going to be without a vital piece of equipment, and a valued partner. That isn't all though, as Lou pisses on Deadman, in a manner of speaking by BB standards anyway.
And this is why I hate these things.
And yeah, this bit is very Kojima. He loves a bit of toilet humour. Deadman then goes into the shower. Waiting in there, he then pulls Sam in as well. One other thing, he removes both their cuffs. Like any spy film worth its salt, Deadman has some important information for Sam, so where better to divulge it than under the cover of running water.
Get closer. Die-Hardman cannot know of this. Understood?
Though this is all delivered in a silly, awkward comedic style, one that you should really expect from a Kojima game now and then. Sam loves his personal space, but for security reasons, Deadman just keeps getting closer and closer, because Deadman doesn't trust Die-Hardman, or any of the higher-ups at Bridges. He discovers BB tech was banned after a void out in one facility. From there, the BB program will be ended publicly, but it will continue behind closed doors. On orders from President Bridget Strand, Sam's mother.
Bridget?
Then Deadman makes the shower even more private, as Bridget wanted to push the BB program as far as she could, that being to use them to cross over to others' beaches.
But none of her plans ever came to fruition. And now BB Tech has fallen into terrorist hands.
Deadman then proclaims to know nothing about Die-Hardman. Sam hasn't even seen the face under the mask either, claiming that burns are involved. Anyone familiar with the rest of the Kane and his unmasking will see the similarities.
Or his face. I thought you might, since you two go further back.
He was already wearing the mask when I met him. Something about burning his face.
With these new revelations, Deadman wants Sam to continue with the plan to reconnect America, in hopes that it will unlock more secrets as the chiral network is expanded.
I might be able to piece together a little more of the puzzle. Be careful, Sam. They're watching.
Again, this is classic spy movie goodness, but with a Kojima twist, playing into the plan so the protagonist can get the advantage. Now it's time to take on the mountain, a region that will put any porter to the test. With a vast majority of it being covered up in snow, this shakes up the movement unlike anything else. Coming at the point where the story takes a shift, this makes us all wait for the next crescendo of the narrative. It's also where ziplines start to play a significant role in the game. Without them, this section would almost double in time, but for any player with a keen eye on placement, This can shorten many journeys to mere seconds. When I first played Death Stranding back in 2019, I basically covered the map in zip lines, which eventually made getting anywhere real trivial, and helped a lot getting those last few trophies. The only thing is, when playing the mountains for the first time, like any other region, it isn't populated by structures yet, and Sam can't just build wherever he wants. So all the player can do is hoof it, relying on climbing anchors and ladders. Almost as if they were back to basics at this point. What with vehicles being next to impossible to manage up here for too long. Though I've seen some people manage to do this somehow. Once you've connected this region, you'll find vehicles in the weirdest spots. BT's also become a major threat once again, as without BB, it's going to be almost impossible to spot them until it's too late. This is unless the player is quick on the button and cuts the cord just in time. Connecting the Doctor and the Mountaineer will have the first section sorted. This also unlocks power gloves, which give off Wolverine vibes. That and they have some benefits. They help Sam grip, and they're really good in a fight. And with each connection, Deadman is going to have a few more updates on BB.
As for BB-28, you'll be pleased to hear the operation went well.
After connecting the photographer, this is where Heartman starts to play a larger role in the game to come, with photos on the camera really intriguing him, with the data dating all the way back to Neanderthals.
I would estimate the paintings to be in the region of 30,000 years old.
This is where the main story really starts to slow down, as Kojima essentially uses Heartman as a vessel to explain away at the player. I should also mention this is another special appearance, as Kojima used the face model of Nicholas Winding Refn, who's a Danish film director and screenwriter, and if you ever look at Kojima's social media feeds, you're going to see him pop up a lot. I don't know if they became friends before this game or during, but he's always around him. I'm also not saying Heartman isn't his own character of needs, wants and feelings, but sometimes when he's talking at Sam, it can feel like you're sitting in the classroom listening to a teacher go on. Around this point, building roads off the mountain is essential, just to get up and down with ease and get over those gaps, because now and then I get distracted from the critical path and go on some more extra orders, and there's just something about the results screen. Seeing the score gradually go up and the bridge link raise, it's the right kind of dopamine drip. It just hits different. Again, playing into the theory that this is a game of two halves. Then a call comes in from Lochner, when actually this is Melengen this time.
It's the same temporal phenomenon that you told me dropped you in a war zone.
I told you. But that wasn't.
The Cupid's limiter can handle most chiral spikes, but we didn't plan for another supercell.
Another supercell?
I told you it was the same as before.
Mama, is that you?
You got me, Sam. It's been a while.
Getting to the next outpost, the Spiritualist, this is when Sam is really pushed to his limits, with a blizzard breaking out making it impossible to see a few feet ahead. You can get a quick look at the landscape with a ping of the Ojodeck. This is where the mountain starts to feel like a boss in its own right, and no, not that mountain. Something I've not mentioned yet, but Timefall doesn't take place up here. Instead, it's Time Snowfall. This essentially works the same way as Timefall, but it degrades structures and gear much faster, and it doesn't always appear when BTs are about either. It kind of does its own thing, though it is around when you come to a BT area. So up here it's always best to carry a bunch of container sprays, and sometimes up here a leap of faith is the only way forward, either off a ladder or off the edge of a rope, all hoping that Sam can tank the fall, and at this point without BB, you don't need to worry about her getting too upset. That and if there's a portable private room about, this can be a lifesaver. Now approaching the cabin that Deadman's asked to meet in, there is yet again another chiral spike. This time not only pulling Sam, but also Deadman into the vortex, to the other side.
Stay away!
As the camera fades back from black, it pans over what looks like a drained riverbed, littered with dead crabs and deformed baby dolls. And quick note, I still remember watching this cutscene over and over again before the game launched, as it was used as a promotional trailer, but instead of focusing on Sam or the veteran, we are now following Deadman, the innocent bystander in all this. Watching this back, it leaves more questions than answers, which is quite unique in the current trailer landscape. For everything, film, TV and games. A lot of people know how to cut a good trailer, but the editors are forced to show more than needed, to the point where trailers just lay out the entire story, or spoil everything. But with a Kojima game, he either runs a cutscene in its entirety, or just cuts a 10-minute epic that leaves you hyped. Then again, when he has so many cutscenes to choose from, the man's got the pick of the litter. As Deadman approaches the tunnel, the water starts to rise. To gain a better grasp of his situation, Deadman hooks up to BB-28, as he has no beach of his own. This should help him avoid the threat ahead, for now. The veteran is back, but this time in the World War II setting. The veteran is still in his modern day getup, but his skull platoon is just for the times. The veteran also seems to have more tar in him now, as it leaks from his eye, and the like. As we get a close-up of Mad's face, you can't not appreciate the detail here, though I bet the compression on this video will crush it to hell. And then for a moment, the tar's all gone. What does this all mean? Waking up in the middle of another battlefield. Deadman manages to get hold of Sam.
Oh, thank God I got through.
Now Sam has to find Deadman and get to BB before the veteran does. What follows is a painstaking recreation of a European battle, which would have taken place towards the end of the Second World War. I can only imagine that one day we'll be like Sam, and be able to walk through a virtual battlefield, but minus the whales and other sea creatures littered about. Tanks are exploding, planes are flying overhead, and ghostly soldiers are locked into a never-ending battle. As if this is all theatre, for the veteran, as this draws from his speech. And this is the best of all the vignettes, and I can't wait to see what Kojima dreams up in the next game. That's if there are similar sections like this in Death Stranding 2. Creeping through the sewer, switching to first person is your best bet here, as the player has to navigate tight spaces in the sewers. It's dark, dingy, and probably smells like shit. Let's never invent smell-o-vision, okay? Somehow I also got lost in this one-way system, just for a bit, but I'm just gonna say I was admiring all the detail, because this place would be such a cool setting for a horror game. Maybe one day Kojima will go down that direction. Hooking back up with Deadman, Sam and BB are reunited. Sam is quick to look over the pod and the baby inside, showing he obviously cares a lot more now.
Stay here. Seems like I got other memories to tend to.
Now reunited with BB, Sam can finally find the veteran, and Deadman has some parting words.
I'm starting to understand why BB is so important to you.
Huh?
It's just a tool. Life and death are supposed to be irrelevant. But we've got attached to each other all the same, haven't we?
This is where Sam names the baby inside.
Kid's not just a tool. Name's Lou.
Lou, huh? That's a good name.
As the bell tolls, it's time for the second fight with the veteran and his skeletons. As he emerges from the barbed wire web and takes another drag from his cigarette. Unlike the first fight, this is less of a game of cat and mouse, what with the streets being more wide and open than the trenches of World War I. The veteran is also right there in front of Sam. This whole sequence is more action packed into it than the first, as Sam's going to have to fight a bunch more skeletons to get to the veteran. Or at least I think. It feels like there's more. The encounter culminates around an open area in front of a church, yet again portraying the beautiful yet destroyed landscape of either a French or German city. There's so much less cover here as well, so grabbing armor is going to be key for this fight, but there are a few tanks and beached whales to hide behind.
I will fight.
Following the veteran's trail, he'll eventually go down after enough bullets covered in Sam's blood have hit their target.
Bring it to me!
On his hands and knees, he starts to speak this time.
Maybe this is all my fault.
He sounds a bit like he regrets his actions in the past. Then as the two struggle, Sam gets a grab of the veteran's dog tag in the scruffle. Before they embrace once again, as Sam is pulled back into the world of the living. We get another look at the struggle of the veteran, as it's clear by now, he was running with BB away from someone. After a fake out, Sam wakes up to see Lou back to normal, with Deadman to fill us in on what happened after. Because Kojima, Deadman directly explains the meaning of Lou's name. The man loves his records.
Lou was the name you were going to give your own baby if he'd had made it. I should have pieced it together sooner.
The reason as to why Sam's alone, and never really had a Lou of his own, is quite dark, and almost a commentary on the curse of immortality.
A death, sudden, in the middle of a town. Young woman in the prime of her life. Nobody knew until it was too late. A void out. Her husband, who was a member of Bridges, had dooms. He tried, but he couldn't get to her in time.
Deadman also doesn't get when he's really digging too deep, but at least we have some more details into Sam's past, as tragic as it might be, though it could have been delivered in more of a nuanced way. This is also where Deadman goes over his own history, and why he doesn't have a beach of his own.
The truth is, I'm Frankenstein's monster. Artificial, grown from pluripotent stem cells.
Sure, this might make more sense in the world of Death Stranding, but it was probably another excuse for Kojima to have another film reference. Being born from stem cells in a test tube, Deadman believes he has no soul, no beach, meaning he's a dead man. Deadman then also identifies the soldier Sam keeps encountering on the beach.
Found a match. He was US Army Special Forces.
But as Deadman tags out, Heartman tags in. We get another lore dump as Sam takes a shower. Back in the PS1 and 2 days, this would have just been an extended codec call.
Clifford Unger played no part in that conflict. I can't explain it, but if you can connect me to the chiral network, who knows what we might discover.
Heading to Heartman's lab, he's got the strangest cargo yet, as Lochner casually brings down her dead sister, and of course Sam's the lucky one to make this delivery. He carried her this far, as Low Roar makes another appearance.
Shaped just like me.
Heartman has quite a view from his lab, as the lake down below is of course heart-shaped. Entering his abode, there's quite a selection of things dotted about, and on taking a closer look, if the timer on the bottom left-hand corner wasn't a dead giveaway, well, Heartman is indeed dead, until he isn't.
Administering shock. Stand clear.
You see, he was partially caught in a void out, the one that killed his family. The explosion caused the power to go out, which meant the machine keeping him alive failed. As he was there on the beach, Heartman saw everyone that died in the void out, including his family.
I saw my wife and my daughter in the procession. Hey! It's me!
Ever since then, he's been searching endless beaches for them. Thanks to his condition, Heartman goes into cardiac arrest every 21 minutes. His heart stops for 3 minutes, and then he returns to the living. And thanks to all this, Heartman becomes the world's leading expert on beaches. But he's really doing all this so he can eventually die with his family.
Please, don't go!
Heartman is fascinated with the body that doesn't go boom after the souls left it, and the extra piece of cargo that was smuggled in as well.
Found it.
The umbilical cord that connects to the beach. Then as a puppet of Kojima, he explains the theory behind the battlefield beaches. But before they can get into Higgs, Sam's gonna have to do a bit of waiting.
We'll continue this shortly.
5, 4, 3,
Now alone with Heartman essentially dead, the player can poke around Heartman's place of living and work, even Mummer's remains before he wakes up.
Administering shock. Stand clear.
No luck.
This go around, it almost feels like meeting with Kojima.
Do you read, Sam?
That's if you were one of the famous faces he adored.
Listen to music.
This goes down to Heartman showing off his vast media collection.
Watch films? You know, I keep busy. I have a collection of music, television shows.
I can just imagine Kojima doing this to Nicholas Winding Refn. I wonder if he ever brings his famous friends back home, or maybe just to his office, as it looks like a big old playroom. Then it's almost as if the script remembers the plot needs to move on, as Heartman describes what it's like to die and come back.
Even when my heart stops, the pain lingers.
Heartman then lays out a plan. It'll be time to make more deliveries, to connect the way stations together, or to make one last push to Edge Knot City. However, mid-briefing, Heartman returns to the beach.
We can get back to the important job of researching the deaths.
And Sam tries his hand at DJ Hero. The geologist, paleontologist, and biologist will all be next up for the Cupid treatment. And side tangent, but I think half the kids my age wanted to be a paleontologist after they saw Jurassic Park. Shame the job isn't as exciting as it is in the movie. Plus I'm nowhere near as smart enough anyway. Just to shake things up, or rather keep them steady, it'll be time to deliver another antimatter bomb. But this time, I don't drop it. Even though this climb is much more of a challenge. What would there not be in as many trucks up here? But there's a shitload of snow, and of course BTs. A handy zipline network would be helpful to at least get some of the way. Low Roar will also escort Sam to the paleontologist. As a detour into a crevasse with a handy mask is in order, and every delivery is bookmarked by Heartman explaining more and more about the Death Stranding.
It's quite remarkable, and that's to your credit.
Traversing this side of the mountain is quite peaceful for the most part. That's if you avoid the BT hotspots and the occasional avalanche anyway. I even find myself feeling I want to do such a thing. I say this as I played this game in a warm flat, with at least one cat on my lap most of the time. Entering another BT infested area. If anything, this whole section is an excuse to get good at the whole cuff slicing mechanic. Now with the biologist online, that should be everything we need for the chiral network to push forward. But because I can't help being an efficient courier, Sam grabs a few more deliveries on his journey back. Those live fish won't swim to Heartman after all. Taking more of a direct route back to the lab, the top of the mountain is pure BT country. And it's by the graces of other players that a private room just happens to be up here. Then I find a floating carrier just when I need it. This is the Strand gaming genre shining through once again. Then because this area is now in the network, even the trucks up here, it's stuff like this that just makes this game stick so much, I swear. As if the game just sometimes drops these little crumbs for the players. That or I just had some really efficient porters in my group. Return to the lab, once he recaps the events of Mama and our ghostly child.
10 seconds to cardiac arrest.
It'll be time for Heartman to take another trip to the beach. When he doesn't.
4, 3, 2, 1.
Just like Deadman, he doesn't trust the UCA. Deadman smuggled the umbilical cord to Heartman, and it wasn't taken from Mama after all. Just like Mama or Malingan, Bridget was connected to the other side. Heartman has also been diving deeper into the history of the Earth's past extinction events. The Big Five.
Our Death Stranding could just be the latest of many.
Soon to possibly be the Big Six. This culminates in the extinction event theory, or EE for short. Each prior extinction had an EE involved. There's also a sign that shows that the current way of things are lining up like before, though this time it won't just be another extinction or Death Stranding. No, it'll be the last Death Stranding. Connecting the dots, Heartman theorizes that if Bridget was an EE, then maybe so is Amelie. This being why Higgs has such an interest in her. The stakes just ramped up, even if Amelie isn't an EE.
And this, when viewed in the context of the extinction entity, EE theory, leads me to surmise that organisms with strands are in fact extinction entities.
Sam still needs to finish the network and find her.
Sam, go west.
How do you want me to handle Die-Hardman?
And for now, Die-Hardman's gonna have to be left in the dark on this.
Nothing good will come of him learning of our suspicions.
This entire section gets pretty dense, as a bunch of different elements start to come together. The lore is plentiful as Sam treks all around the mountain. And then, of course, Heartman has a massive lore dump for the player to take in. Some of this definitely passed me by my first time around, and even my second. Even once I thought I got a grasp on it all. It's only now watching my gameplay back and writing this all down that it's all coming together.
And this?
The Iceman from 5,300 years ago.
And that's no fault of any of the writing, there's just a lot to take in. Making the last leg of the journey to reconnect America with the Chiral network. This is going to involve descending down the other side of the mountain, an area that's going to have no roads, and there isn't that many friendly faces down there either. The snow starts to hammer it down here as well, meaning that plenty of container spray is going to be needed. Here I could have opted to take the zipline network I created, but as this was the director's cut, I chose to try out the buddy bot. Thankfully this little guy stays away when BTs get all up in Sam's business. Leaving the snow behind is such a relief. You can really feel this part of the journey is coming to a close, but unfortunately it won't be over yet. What with the landscape ahead resembling Emmanuel? It's jagged and steaming and controlled by another terrorist cell. As I attempt to sneak around this is where I found out the depressing fact that buddy bots can't leave the Chiral network, meaning this last section's gonna have to be done alone. That and well, I had to dismantle the poor guy. The devs didn't need to make this bot scream in pain when doing so, but they did. Thanks Kojima. Now with only a floating carrier to assist, and the odd ladder, Silent Poets will be back for one last track. As we approach the tar belt. Now it's at this point the symbolism starts to stare the player in the face. Again, this is something I didn't realise the first time around, but just look at what's left of the Chiral relay. Yeah, it's a damn cross. So is Sam Jesus or something? Is the Chiral network a metaphor for religion? And is Sam actually saving the world from the rapture? Being the soul taking the brunt of it all, over and over again? Most probably, I bet. There's actually quite a lot of biblical symbolism and imagery throughout the game. Sam being referred to as the Great Deliverer, which could be attributed to Moses or Jesus, or even Shadow Moses. Sam being a repatriate could be compared to Jesus rising again. Then there's Higgs, the main villain of it all, who dresses like a cross between the Grim Reaper and Death, and a pharaoh of Egypt. As the game goes on, we witness a growing god complex.
The name's Higgs, the particle of God that permeates all existence.
Sam's blood literally defeats BTs, cleaning all the sins away like the blood of Christ. And well, is this piss holy water? Fuck's sake, Kojima. Now all we need is for Sam to turn water into energy drinks, and the circle is complete. But wait a minute, doesn't his container do that? Fuck. Whilst I'm also on the subject, you can find a bunch more symbolism in Higgs' secret bunker, off to the east of Lake Knot City. You know that place where you delivered all the pizzas, and this place is eventually unlocked by delivering said pizzas.
Make sure you carry pizzas properly at all times. If you do something stupid like turn it on its side, you'll ruin it.
I mean copious amounts of them, to a strange reclusive guy that doesn't seem to go out much. Well, he would be reclusive in our time, but thanks to the events of the Death Stranding, not many venture out anymore. I just want Higgs' secret though. How does he manage to pack away so much pizza and retain a decent waistline? It's probably something to do with the Chiral network or something like that.
That's a long way down.
Getting across the tar will be no simple feat. In fact, it requires Sam to do the unthinkable. Submit to the BTs and let them pull him out across the tar. Now is this Christ sacrificing himself at the cross? Or Moses parting the sea in some way? Not sure, but the similarities are certainly there. But being pulled out into the tar, this means another boss BT encounter will be triggered. And we all know what happens when these BTs emerge. So do buildings from the old world, prior to the Death Stranding. This doesn't quite part the sea, but at least you can get across it. With Sam having no choice but to play the game, the floor is lava. By jumping from building to building, giant whale BTs will dive across the area, destroying the path in Sam's wake. This can be a real scramble if you don't get your route right, as Sam has no way to deal with the BTs here. Hopefully by reaching Amelie, that'll do the trick, or so Sam thinks. Also, fun fact, if the player doesn't make it across, then a void out will be triggered. This doesn't necessarily clear a path, but it does mean the edge of the crater will emerge above the tar, making a path to cross. Waking up on the beach, Amelie is having a little sing-song.
London Bridge is falling down, my fair lady.
Before Sam then wakes up on an actual beach, and it isn't long before Higgs shows his face.
She's in there. I can smell her. Of course, I wouldn't have known for sure if it wasn't for you and your wonderful network.
Seems like Higgs has also been benefiting from the chiral network. Higgs decides to get a little too close for comfort.
Thank you kindly.
Oh, Sam Bridges. Careful. Contents are fragile. Like the world and everything in it. Me, I'm no exception.
Ahead of his time, Higgs also goes on a rant about masks.
I'm not the only one wearing masks either. There's your boss man, and that woman, and, oh, let's not forget little you.
Okay, it's okay.
I know it ain't easy wearing a mask all the time. Now the mask can come off, right?
Before showing off that necklace again, with everything at stake, Higgs decides to play a little game before the end of the world.
Tell you what say we make it a race? Whoever wins gets to usher in the end of days. Nothing like the eve of extinction. Bring focus to the mind. Makes folks honest. There'll be no need for masks soon. But I wonder, when you look death in her eye, will you blink?
Connecting the distribution centre just outside Edgenot City, the completion of the chiral network is so very near.
You've made it as far as Bridges 1 ever did.
After a quick chat with Die-Hardman, he again suggests that Sam should take another nap, almost like he knows we're going to have these dreams. And we all know why. Amelie shows up once more, just before the big connection. After one of many late game reveals, she's utterly confident in all of this now. No, not of her name change, but the fact that she might be an EE.
There's something you need to know, Sam. I've kept things from you. Worn a mask for the longest time. Everything Higgs said about me is true. I could end it all. Us. Mankind. Extinction. That's what I am.
On this day, we finally get a chance to do what I've been asking the whole game. Explore one of the cities. Now this might only be a small section, but it's a look into what the world used to be like. Passing through the main wall, there's a new type of BT in the area. These brain blob looking BT things could actually be seen as jellyfish washed up from the beach. They don't really pose much, if any threat, and they go down with 1 or 2 bullets. As harmless as they are, these beach things are certainly unsettling. But there is one benefit of taking them out. They're a rich source of chiral crystals. Though I will say these caused me to let my guard down for the next batch of standard BTs. I even got a game over here, twice. Sure, I might have lost my patience, but just look how close I failed the second time. Again, this just plays into the new area Sam finds himself in. Traversing the busted, collapsing buildings just goes to show what exploring a full-blown city could be like in Death Stranding. Kojima could really get creative with the ruins of the old world. So just to change the pace, I go all Dutch and Rambo on these dead fuckers, blowing them away with a grenade launcher. After an entire game of sneaking around these ghouls, it's nice to let off some steam. And with that, the chiral network is complete. But there are still so many hours left to go in Death Stranding. After taking another rest in the private room, Sam's beach dream gets a little weird, with Amelie reinforcing the truth. She is an EE. Waking up from this beach dream, Sam is greeted by a truly chilling alarm. This can only mean bad news.
Chiral density increasing rapidly. Contact imminent. Combat preparations strongly advised.
As Sam heads up and connects with Lou, we get another vision into the past, as Clifford Unger sings a little song to BB.
The day is ending.
Leaving the distro center, the Titan BT approaches. This corners Sam as Higgs shows up, just to clever girl him. And right here I've just got to say, I'm so pissed I selected the cyberpunk eyes, instead of my Sam's trademark golden shades.
Spread all across America, connecting all them precious little nuts. I got the whole world in the palm of my hands.
Like a true master, Higgs was working smart rather than hard, as he let Sam do all the work. With everything lining up, Higgs is now getting ready for the big number 6. Higgs wants to bring an end to all things. Like a true agent of chaos that he is, Higgs triggers the EE with an Amelie. As the last Strand approaches, Higgs can't help but gloat, as Troy Baker hams it right up.
Doom? People like us? She's the source of it all!
Nightmares that haunt us, the visions of an inescapable future.
Sound familiar? Happy fucking doomsday, Sam! Fuck you!
It's now time for Sam to go head to head with Higgs, as he controls a Titan BT in the last Stranding match, and this isn't lazy booking.
This is a done deal. They come and get me.
This also means Sam has access to all the good stuff. More grenade launchers, and even the legendary quad-barrel rocket launcher of Resident Evil fame. This being such an important battle, I immediately popped Sam's shades back on. And thanks to Resident Evil, I feel like I had a bit of an advantage in this fight, because you know, you've always got to shoot the glowy thing. This fight is simple enough, but tough, as it takes place in such a small area. Then the jellyfish BTs don't make it any easier either, as you've got to get rid of them before you go back to Higgs. He's trying to usher his doomsday after all.
Time to reset.
And once he shifts around the Titan BT, it can be a little tricky to get a lock on him.
Let the game resume.
This has got to be deliberate, of course, as I don't really remember playing many boss fights this vertical. And when I say that, I mean, you know, games in general. So at least this is something new, overlaid onto one of the oldest tropes in video games. The boss battle and the rule of 3 that follows it. Because of course, going for the weak spot being Higgs will bring the time down, but not Higgs, as Lou steps in to try and help out.
All that for repatriate. What a waste.
But her attempts are in vain, as they both take severe damage from the man who wants to end it all.
Well, we'll pick this up when you're done dying.
Hit!
I'll see you on the beach for the grand finale.
Sam is able to resurrect, but Lou's pod is damaged, as it's a race against time to catch up with Higgs. Sam needs to get to Amelie's beach, but he can't do it alone, as Fragile has the power to help Sam along.
Now picture Amelie in her beach. You love her, right? You love her. Here it is.
Fragile focuses all her strength as she breaches Sam's personal space. The jump was no easy feat, and the Dooms take it out of her for now. Now back on Amelie's beach, Higgs traps Amelie in a familiar looking web. It isn't a carbon copy, but you know there's a reason why Clifford was on this web as well. Higgs doesn't want to wait for the natural end of humanity, so he's very keen to get it over and done with, as he queues up another boss fight, but this time, there's no coming back, no repatriation.
Lucky loser gets to put an end to this rinse and repeat bullshit once and for all. So, no BTs, no void outs, no bullshit. Just a good old-fashioned boss fight. Stick versus rope. Gun versus Strand. One more ending before the end. One last game over.
Giving these Doomers some stakes, the boss fight is really bare bones, as most of the spectacle gets saved for Clifford or BTs at this point. It's a game of hide and seek as Sam needs to sneak about and use cover to get the drop on Higgs.
Where'd you go?
Kicking the shit out of him several times will trigger the next phase. But if you're like me, you forgot an early mechanic, that being you can just throw cargo, and there's plenty of it scattered about. Throwing it at Higgs will stun him so you can give him a good slap. I'm shocked Higgs doesn't go down after being hit with the PlayStation. If that was the launch version, then he'd be fucking finished. Switching from gun to knife, Higgs still tries to get the upper hand with teleportation.
I don't need the gun, Sam. I can beat you. I can beat you!
But overcoming this will bring the boss battle to a fist fight.
We got dooms, Sam! This was only ever gonna end one way. So come on!
Feeling very Metal Gear Solid 4, both Sam and Higgs now have health bars, as they duke it out to the very end. This is cool and all, but it doesn't really feel as earned as it did in MGS4. That was the very end of everything, and this isn't even the end of the game. Thankfully you can claim some health back in this one-on-one, those poor worms. But if you aren't fast enough, Higgs is going to grab them first. Punching the absolute shit out of him will finally bring Higgs down. At the end of this, both men look fucked. This fight is so brutal. There's just something about one man finally besting the other, with only sheer strength and determination. Whilst laying there, of course Higgs has to make one more smug remark, just for old time's sake.
You're getting a little touchy-feely there, Mr. Phasmophobia.
That, and he's got one more fourth wall break, just for good measure.
Well, congratulations. You won the game.
Handing Higgs over to Fragile, she finally gets her hands on him. Not even Fragile can stand listening to Higgs and his god complex anymore, so she finally shuts him up. Just before Higgs is taken behind the woodshed, Fragile has a gift for Sam, because we can't leave Lou out. Even with Higgs out of the picture, Amelie is still an EE meant to bring the end to all things. Amelie has some explaining to do, and I just have to say, these two don't come across like they have any relation. I know it's probably the direction, but it's all a little bit wooden, until this line drops.
Great. So I'm Mario and you're Princess Peach.
Now with Higgs out of the way, they both go for a little run on the beach?
We run. Together.
Run?
Yeah. Like Mario and Princess Peach.
This part is so fucking weird. Then out of nowhere, Die-Hardman is here. We are now entering the second third act of Death Stranding, which I'd normally complain about, especially when it comes to the movies. But at this point, this just comes to the territory when playing a Kojima game. Because don't forget, Clifford Unger is still out there, and he's got some unfinished business of his own. Removing Die-Hardman's mask, it now seems like the two have a connection. That was sidelined up until now.
Is that really you?
Clifford isn't concerned with Die-Hardman though, or Bridget at this point. The man just wants his BB.
BB!
After being pushed back into the world of the living, Sam wakes up in the private room, and Deadman is there to fill in the gaps via hologram. Then the whole crew is there. Heartman gets a little bit more into the lore, of course, when it comes to Dooms, and Sam's Dreamcatcher.
The two of you share a very special connection. Your Dreamcatcher, her Kipu. They are no mere trinkets. They are singular, irreplaceable totems, embodiments of your shared memories. Two sides of a coin. The price of entry to her beach.
This is when they inform Sam Fragile is too weak to teleport him back.
The way home should be easier, right?
So now Sam has to trek all the way back across America.
Now, get out of there, and make sure you head east, towards Lake Knot City.
And this time there is no cargo, because Sam is the cargo. Hooking back up with Lou, we get a look into the dark past of the BB program.
This child is special. One of a kind.
A BB candidate?
Either that, or
a sacrifice.
a foundation. A bridge.
Exiting the private room by the relay, the timefall is coming down hard. With all the chiral activity, the cloud coverage is doing the landscape. And now, all Sam has to do is walk back, but not without low roar of course. Some might complain that this game about crossing America is going to make the player cross it again, but that's the bloody point of it all. It's all about the journey. Besides, it's not like playing the entire game all over again. It's one straight shot back, and the player's got all their structures to help them now. While it's mostly a straight shot back, that's if Sam wasn't pulled off his zipline for a BT fight. You can run away from this fight, but at this point I just saw Sam as someone who would kick the shit out of any ghoul he came across. And spoilers, but this becomes a warm-up for the whale later. And at this point all the roads I've built come in handy getting back, as it looks like the Northern Lights have taken over. Oh, and Deadman chimes in over the codec along the way, just for a few more lore dumps. But it's all information that Sam's about to learn from the source anyway. Getting closer to Lake Knot City, you can barely see anything ahead of you, with what I'm assuming now chiral fog resting across the landscape. Low roar also plays Sam home as he approaches the Eye of the Storm. Clifford has claimed Amelie's beach so he can start the last stranding. That's if he can't get BB back anyway. Heading into the storm, we get a glimpse of Clifford just before we head back to the beach.
I found out I was gonna be a father. I was so scared.
Now back on the beach, but this time in a war-torn Vietnam, the final confrontation with Clifford is about to begin. Back on Clifford Unger's beach for the third and final time, Sam now finds himself in a recreation of Vietnam. During that war that was nothing more than a hideous waste of life, as politicians waved their dicks around, trying to impress the Soviets. Sorry, I don't want to get too political when it comes to a Kojima game, lol. But man, there hasn't really been a just war since World War II. Yet again with these sections, the environment is dripping with atmosphere, as Sam makes his way through the chaos. The lush jungle is illuminated by the fire that burns, and the gunfire that consumes the surrounding landscape. Bombs will drop as Sam navigates the never-ending firefight. From the fallen soldiers at Clifford's beach is drawn back, turning Limbo into a state of hell for these soldiers that fell well over a century ago. Going into Death Stranding, it wasn't clear we were going to be treated to vignettes like this, and it is truly a treat to be thrown into this digital conflict, as horrifying as the real one was. The beach is essentially a cheat code for Kojima, where he can basically conjure up anything he wants, without avoiding a lame explanation. You know, like this just being a dream or something like that. These sections are hard cuts from the standard game for sure, but they're also integral to the overall narrative, as becomes clear towards the end of the game. Cliff drops off another one of his demonic webs before Kojima pays tribute to Apocalypse Now. And you could go guns blazing here, but as I've mentioned many times in other videos, I love me a stealth game whenever possible. So skulking through the bushes and silently ending these troopers with Sam's magical blood strand is how I handle most of the skulls. And no, not those ones. Damn, is it so satisfying, man. Especially as their heads fly off with this move, unlike the mules or the terrorists. So that's a nice touch. It can be tough to pull this off on Cliff, but I managed to do it at least once. And even though you can catch him off guard like this, Sam is still gonna have to go loud. There's the least cover here of any of the Clifford levels, so it's probably best to find a beach dwell as soon as possible. Coming to the end of this conflict, you can tell there's a serious cutscene about to start, as Kojima personally removes my hat and shades. Cliff has been defeated, and this time his limbo is coming to an end. As he whistles the theme for Death Stranding, this always gets me. There is no struggle this time. Cliff just wants his BB. As Sam mentions his name, memories come rushing back to Cliff.
Are you Clifford Unger?
Now with Sam returning a whistle, things are starting to come together. There's a reason these two have become linked, and it's not because the BB Sam was carrying. This time there isn't an aggressive embrace, as Sam hands over Lou, but Cliff returns her in exchange for a hug, and then there's a glimpse back into the day that everything changed. With that, Clifford disappears, and we see another memory from inside the pod.
There's nothing I can do for your wife. I'm sorry.
Die-Hardman and Clifford have been linked in more ways than we've been led to believe. Now back in the private room, Sam thinks he knows why there's a connection to Cliff, but he's just slightly off.
I think Cliff might be Lou's father. He said, "Give me back my BB."
And now he's having second thoughts about all the encounters with the lost veteran thus far. Playing these theories off, Deadman plays a message from Die-Hardman.
And I sure as hell hope that's who's watching.
Holding up a weird doll, this starts to set Lou off.
I got a little present from Amelie. Said she'd take me to the beach if I wanted. But I'd need this doll to show me the way.
And then taking off his mask, we get to see the face of Die-Hardman, who's played by Tommy L. Jenkins, who absolutely nails this role. He's mostly being low-key in the background so far, but as Death Stranding starts to wrap up, this is some of the best performances I've seen in video games. Die-Hardman knows that some at Bridges have been working on their own theories, but so has he, as he elaborates on his theories behind Amelie.
No record she ever existed. She's a ghost. And the thing about ghosts, I never met Amelie in person. Have you? Ever seen her in the flesh, shook her hand, touched her?
Her very existence is now coming into question, even if Sam rejects this at first.
Bullshit. She's real. We've touched, all right? She and I both.
Well, I've only ever interacted with her hologram.
I'm telling you, I've met her. In person. Lots of times when I was little.
Yes, but on the beach.
Here's what the president had to say about her daughter. Amelie was born on the beach. There her Ka remained, though her Ha came to this world. This division of body and soul forced her to spend most of her childhood in the hospital.
Being born on the beach, this split her in two, and it also gave her a massive midichlorian count. Best get Qui-Gon in to check those numbers. Sorry, I mean Doom's numbers. Even though things weren't adding up, Die-Hardman still played his role until the time was right. Doing some digging of his own, Die-Hardman has opened up a web of lies.
And that's how I found out. Bridget was diagnosed with uterine cancer in her 20s and couldn't have children. You see, doesn't add up, does it?
And not knowing what to believe anymore, Die-Hardman's got nothing left but to spring the trap that was left for him. Holding the very significant revolver, Die-Hardman has but one objective now. And because this is a Kojima game, Die-Hardman has one last confession, as we find out the reason behind his nickname.
I'm just a man. No powers, nothing special. Don't have dooms, I can't repatriate like Sam either. Don't know the first thing about dying, I had never tried it. Yeah. I've been to hell. Every single battlefield was hell. But no matter how terrible it got, I never died. Because all I ever did was run from death. Well, I gotta go. She's calling for me. Bridges, don't let me down.
With everyone's collective theories coming together, Deadman thinks he's got the answer when the chiral network drops out.
It's so obvious to me now. I can't believe I didn't see it sooner. It was Amelie who...
As it comes back online, Fragile joins the Discord server and decides she's going to be the next one to divulge all this. And it turns out Higgs was just a puppet of Amelie all along. Seeking power like no other, Higgs was seduced to Amelie's side, becoming an agent of extinction. Using the same doll that was given to Die-Hardman, this is the source of all of Higgs's power.
It's the same doll Die-Hardman had. This is their bridge baby. There's this idea that the terrorists brought back BB tech and Bridges was just following suit. It's garbage. Their methods and yours are completely different. Your BB links you to the world of the dead. Their doll links them to Amelie and her beach.
With all these revelations, these dolls also link back to Cliff in the world-ending party. But who is Amelie? Hell, who even is Bridget anymore? Loose ends are being tied up, but there are more questions that keep being surfaced.
If we get to the bottom of that, then maybe we can still avert the last stranding.
You've got to find her, Sam.
Whoever she really is.
Now at Port Knot City, Sam needs to get back fast, as Fragile needs those crybites. After another look back into the past, it'll be time to take on the last delivery in the game, heading back across a landscape that was once so familiar. It almost looks alien now, as the timefall doesn't let up, with it taking its toll on the whole region, discolouring the landscape and wiping away everything Sam built. Now the only structures that remain are the ones built by other players. To really drive home the Strand genre, making my way back, I actually came across the path I used to get to Port Knot City, some 50 hours ago. There's a real strange feeling about following your footsteps back. It's a little poetic, I guess. After mowing down a horde of jellyfish BTs, there's one more mini-boss BT that tries its luck. But I'm a Resident Evil veteran at this point, so the quad-barrel rocket launcher puts it down fast. The final journey back almost feels nostalgic at this point. As Central Knot City comes into view, this feels like a real homecoming, even if it does look similar to like every other settlement. But just before Sam makes that one crucial delivery, Kojima finally gets his whale moment. As the supersized BT emerges from the tar, which for me reminds me of the opening of the Phantom Pain. I don't know if the whale was meant to play more into MGS5, but I'm sure Kojima brought it back in this game for some reason. This BT fight feels as if all the porters are coming together for one epic moment, as a myriad of Sams come up from beneath the tar, with equipment that Sam's gonna need. This tar also extends as far as the eye can see, making it the largest area yet, and all these Sams that come out the tar are crucial here, because you're not gonna have enough rockets to take this down. Defeating the whale is a so-so fight at best. Sure, it's different to all the other BT fights, and there's some real spectacle here, but it just feels crammed in at the very end. Especially on the journey back through America. You've had like 2 or 3 of these anyway, and this is the final fight of the game, making this the last boss of Death Stranding. Now the whale does do massive damage if it lands an attack, but they're shockingly easy to avoid, especially when you look at the scale of it. I don't know, this all just feels a little bit like padding. After this boss fight is done, Lowraw plays Sam home, as he makes this vital delivery.
Please don't take it wrong.
Arriving back at HQ, the gang are all here.
Sam!
You're back. It must have been one hell of a journey, especially on your own.
Even Die-Hardman, well in the other room anyway, after waving a grub in Fragile's face, she wakes up from her slumber, a lot like what I do with the cats from time to time. She still looks worse for wear though, with Deadman worried if Fragile can even send Sam back. And at the same time Kojima speaks through Heartman once again, as he explains the multiverse theory.
If beaches were likened to a multiverse, hers would appear to exist on a higher plane than ours.
Then essentially says that Amelie's beach is the centre of all beaches. It's unique and unreachable without the likes of Sam, but now he has to make the tough call. This could trap him in the beach for good, but Sam is a selfless man now, and decides it's worth the risk. After all, this game's been about helping people up until this point, so why stop now?
Just so we're clear, if I want to stop the last Stranding and come back in one piece, I need to go to her beach and talk her out of it. That about right?
Correct. As cliche as it sounds, you're our only hope.
Making one last trip, Fragile channels everything she's got.
I know you love her. You love her!
Now on the other side, we get one more vision into the past, but this time, not from the pod. Waking up on Amelie's beach for the last time, Sam is left alone, with the sky off into the distance bleeding a crimson red, and a bunch of whales laying there dead. There's nothing left for Sam to do, but wait. Amelie appears and then so does Bridget, and this is where we find out that they are in fact the same person.
You still don't know who I am, do you?
Who are you?
Sam. I knew you'd come back.
Like so many others in this game, Amelie was wearing a mask, but hers was Bridget.
Do you understand, Sam? Amelie and Bridget. Those are just names. What I am is an extinction entity.
Amelie explains what she is before giving Sam a choice. Stay with her as all of existence ends, or give all of existence a second chance, for one last go around. And I won't deny there's something oddly intriguing about watching all the lights go out, being the last person alive to watch it all fade. But really, there's no future in that, because literally everything's gone.
In expanding the network, you brought people and their beaches together, integrating them into a greater whole. Like this Kipu. But in doing so, you also bound them to my beach. The very beach where I opened the gates to the other side. You can't stop what's coming. But if you cut me and my beach loose, perhaps you can stop it from spreading. You might just prevent the last stranding. And mankind will live to die another day.
Thankfully, Sam's work has given everyone a second chance. He could prevent the last stranding, isolating Amelie and her beach for their inevitable end. As Amelie walks into the ocean, this is it, the point in which the last stranding is about to occur. So in making the choice, shooting Amelie does nothing. She's beyond bullets now, even if they're laced with Sam's blood. Letting Amelie finish her walk will literally bring the end to all things. But thankfully after reconnecting, a simple hug will do the trick. As the two embrace, Amelie has all she needs to give humanity a second chance. Sam did it, but now Amelie must be alone. For what could be a bloody long time. Humanity at the end of it all passed Amelie's test, for now.
Even if we aren't together, we will always be connected. Goodbye, Sam.
Amelie then disconnects her beach from everyone else's, and sends Sam back to his own. This last section has Sam stranded on his own beach, in what essentially is purgatory, calling out there's no one there. Just Sam, just the beach.
Over here! Over here!
Amelie. All the colour has been sucked from Sam, and so has hope as the credits start to roll. Occasionally we take a break as memories come flooding back, though with each one that passes, there's no way to tell how long Sam's been stuck here. After sitting through the credits, Sam gives up and pulls the trigger.
A gun won't help you here, but it still has a role to play.
Though as he does, we get the option to reconnect to the living. As Sam is still here, the horizon has changed. Out to sea are 5 shapes, the 5 prior extinction entities. As Sam gets closer to them, familiar voices can be heard.
He's over there. Over here, Sam. That's it. We're coming, Sam. You ready, Fragile?
It certainly sounds like the group he left behind, back in the world of the living. Stepping into the water, Sam is pulled in by none other than Deadman.
Gotcha!
This then gives Sam the chance to repatriate, something he never thought he'd be able to do again. Back in the world of the living, Die-Hardman is now being named the new president of the United States of America. As he gives his speech, Die-Hardman removes his mask, for good, as it served its purpose for now. He also sounds like the right type of leader to guide America into the next era.
Let there be a new America. An America where we can face one another, where we can speak our minds and open our hearts.
As the speech continues, everyone is here. It's like a game of Smash Brothers. Everyone is here, even Sam, but he's off to one side, with obvious doubt on his face. Die-Hardman also continues the narrative about Bridget and Amelie, because sometimes it's just best to tell a lie.
President Bridget Strand and her daughter, Samantha America Strand, sacrificed everything in their pursuit of hope that we, the people, might be whole again.
Then Die-Hardman does his best to thank Sam, even though he's heard enough. Deadman then follows and explains how they found Sam on the beach.
Just when we were about to give up, Die-Hardman reminded us about the revolver. So, we tried to follow it, and it led us to a far corner of your own beach. And bingo, there you were.
That was one handy revolver, bringing life rather than death. Deadman also has something else to say, yet another lore dump as he mentions Clifford. Then he spells it out to those who need a little extra push.
Turns out some people die harder than others, though. Dear John donned a mask and reappeared with a new identity.
I don't know why this was necessary, as Die-Hardman tells Sam moments later. Whilst Die-Hardman explains himself, man, this is first class delivery.
Now, I'm not trying to make excuses. I just want you to know that not a day's gone by when I haven't thought about it.
This is one of those scenes that really sat with me after Death Stranding finally ended. In the most serious way imaginable, Die-Hardman also explains the origins of his name.
I killed Captain Clifford Unger.
As Kojima makes it somewhat make sense.
The captain saved my life. You know why they call me Die-Hardman? Because he wouldn't let me die. He brought my sorry ass back home every time.
Tommy, man, you deserve many flowers for this performance. Die-Hardman fucked up and he knows it, and ever since that day, he's been trying to set things right.
And when he stared me down, that ghost, I knew he was here to kill me, to make it right. And why shouldn't he? Why didn't he? He couldn't save his kid, his baby. And that's what brought him back. I guess when he saw I was trying to do my part for America, he remembered who he was. And he forgave me. God! But I don't deserve it, God damn it! There is no atoning for what I've done. God!
Sam then has some wise words that we should all take in, and these hit harder with every year that passes.
Nobody wants a president who acts like they're immortal. And if you're not scared of death, how can you value life? And life is pretty fucking fragile right now. And yeah, the old ways die hard. But that's what's gonna have to happen if we're gonna come together and build a better America. That gun won't help you here. That's her words, not mine.
Sam then gets back to Lou, but she's passed on. It's a little strange this wasn't Sam's first port of call, but as Sam looks into the pod, he's reminded that Lou's dead body is dangerous in this world. Deadman has one last order for Sam, and even suggests taking Lou out of the pod. Removing Sam's cuffs, he's now set free from the UCA, able to do what he wants and go where he wants. And now after everything, this is goodbye.
Thanks for everything.
Exiting the facility, Fragile is outside waiting for Sam, as we find out what's next for her, and we also find out what happened to Higgs.
I didn't shoot Higgs. Couldn't pull the trigger. So I let him choose. Death or eternal solitude on the beach.
With some final words, Fragile and Sam call back to that moment they met in the cave.
I'm fragile.
But not that fragile.
Now with all the goodbyes said, it's time for one last delivery.
Come on, Lou. One last delivery.
With one last delivery left, Sam has to take Lou to the incinerator. As he does this, BB's theme plays. A track that I've listened to countless times now. This perfectly fits this sequence. After everything this duo has done together, now it's time for Sam to put Lou to rest. As the music swells, the camera pulls right out, leaving a frog in the back of my throat for some reason. The sun then comes out after the endless timefall. The landscape looks gorgeous, and there's nothing standing in Sam's way now. I really lose myself in this moment, and feel bad talking over it. It's crazy how I can become attached to a digital baby. Climbing up a mountain to a furnace, essentially taking the first order Sam refused. And after all this time, the help Igor laid down is still here. Connecting to Lou one last time, we get a clear look into what happened in the past, and this last cutscene is almost an hour. A lot of people have constantly said Kojima wants to just make movies, and well, he does here, but he also fits them into his games. And as I said at the start, these are rewards for all the deliveries the player made. Drop in what is essentially a prequel movie to this game, but at least this isn't just one big lore dump. It fills in the many missing pieces from all those flashbacks.
You'll be out of there in no time. And the second all this is over, I'm gonna take you wherever you wanna go.
Clifford is in a hospital with his wife, who is essentially brain dead, and she's connected to her baby in a BB pod, and it's revealed that this is his son. Just another tale that Cliff was after the wrong BB, all this time. The baby in the pod is the first Bridge baby. President Bridget Strand wanted to keep the two for her BB project, but Cliff is not happy with this at all.
But we cannot release your son just yet. Believe me when I tell you it's for the best.
This woman in a mask who's done nothing but lie to me.
I have a duty to protect our country. Lies are an unfortunate necessity.
Out of respect, the young Die-Hardman, or John Blake McClane, nice name there Kojima, hands Cliff the very same revolver from the end of the game.
I can't terminate your wife's life support from inside her room. System won't allow it. So, this is the only other option.
Allowing him to put an end to his wife's life, putting Lisa to rest, so she can't just become another experiment. And with that, Cliff makes a tough call and ends it for her. Grabbing BB, the game cuts to the present.
BB? BB? BB, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Daddy.
Finishing off the final order, Sam hooks up to Lou once again. This now leaves it up to the player to find Cliff, as the final flashback plays out. Clifford does his best to escape, but the facility is locked down tight.
Freeze! Hey, put it down! Drop it! Put it down!
Back off. Back off!
After trying to escape the guards, Cliff catches a bullet, so this must be prior to necrosis then, or they've got a furnace on site. John then returns to his captain, but it's too late.
Thanks for trying, John.
Stop! Step aside, sir, or we'll be forced to open fire.
It's a dead end. He's trapped.
Now back in the room we've seen so much in these visions, Sam is also here, getting a closer perspective. He's here in spirit anyway, as Cliff barricades himself in. Now with Lisa and BB, he sings BB's theme, as the end is near.
See the sunset, the day is ending. Let that yawn out, there's no pretending.
John is there at the end, as he forces his way into the situation. Sam tries to get in the way, but he isn't really there. Or is he? Sharing one last moment with Cliff, all is revealed.
You told me your name was Sam Porter. But you're Sam Bridges. My son. My bridge to the future. Dividing people was the only thing I was ever good at. But not you, Sam. You bring people together. You're their bridge to the future.
Is this me?
Then Cliff is shot, but at the same time, so is Sam.
Oh God. Not BB too.
No!
Sent to the beach as a baby, Amelie brings back Sam as a repatriate, giving him dooms in the process, not too dissimilar to Higgs. In the background, Clifford can be seen in the water, and as the same bullet killed them both, this is what links their beaches, setting up the events in the future. This also leaves a familiar scar on Sam, which is still very much visible as an adult. Dropping Sam into the water, there's one last perspective shot. Bridget explains she'll be taking care of him, posing as his mother.
Take him out of the pod. I'll raise him as my own.
Jumping back to the future, the only thing Sam burns are his cuffs. Sam does his best to try and revive Lou, but her body is already entering necrosis. It looks like it isn't working, when thankfully, she comes back from the beach.
Lou.
I don't know what I would have done if Lou didn't make it. And just a quick thought, was she sent back from the beach? I know Amelie's in her own dimension now, but maybe someone else did. Another EE? Or maybe, I don't know, Higgs? Is he the extinction entity in the next game? Maybe he is, I don't know. If Higgs is the one to send Lou back, I should be a paid writer. Stepping outside, Sam and Lou aren't affected by the timefall anymore, as it stops and the sun comes out. And with that, tomorrow is now in their hands. What a fucking game. Like every Sony PlayStation title in recent memory, Death Stranding also received a PS5 port, and as unnecessary as a lot of them might be, you can't deny these are easy money for the publisher, with avid collectors or Joe Public picking them up because, you know, it's the new shiny thing. Though I played the director's cut via PlayStation Plus, so they didn't get my money in that sense, which I have for multiplayer and, you know, cloud saves. It's a bloody shame though, that Sony can't get their ass together and port over some of their PlayStation 3 franchises. The fact that Killzone, Resistance, and even Infamous are largely unplayable on the newest hardware, it's a fucking crime. Sure, the Cell processor has a lot to do with this, but the PlayStation 3 is about to turn 20. That and my fat launch PS3 just died, so I had to go and buy a Slim. So yeah, I'm extra pissed about this, especially as I sent that thing off to be repaired, and it looks like it's unrepairable. So now it's just an ornament holding my saves forever. And also they're taking a bunch of the old games off PlayStation Plus. So what, are they just going to be dead again, or are Sony going to finally port these fucking games? Do you remember when we got those classic HD ports of PS2 games, like the Splinter Cell trilogy, and even the first batch of Hitman games? Well, maybe if Sony bothered to give their past games some love, they should give some of those lost franchises this treatment, rather than just leave them stranded on a dying console. Hand this off to Aspire. For the most part, they do great work bringing Star Wars games back to life. Or maybe Sony should use one of their own studios to do this. You know, the studio they bought that used to do this all the time. Cough cough Bluepoint. They ported Metal Gear Solid 2, 3 and Peace Walker over to the PS3, and there was no issue there. Like, why not try bringing Mertstorm back from the dead? I know they've got Gran Turismo, which is like a crown jewel of PlayStation, even if Jim Ryan didn't think so, but just get a studio to port this over and see how it does. If anything, car and racing games are always popular, and it was a real spectacle for the PS3 when it launched. And I love me The Last of Us, the first game anyway, but it's comical how many times that game's been re-released. Anyway, back to the game at hand, and off that tangent. The director's cut dropped a few years after Death Stranding launched, and from my layman's eye, the game does look slightly better on the new machine. And it better, as we're starving for new PlayStation Studio titles on the PS5. Don't get me wrong, there's a wealth of games to play right now. But you know, I'd like a big game from Sony now and then. Though thanks to the failed live service initiative, it looks like this generation's a wash. Thanks, Jim. I'm no technical savant, so I'm not going to compare the two or break down each version. You can go to Digital Foundry for something like that. Or one day, hopefully, one of my favourite YouTubers, Jared from Avalanche Reviews, covers Death Stranding. The director's cut did add new equipment, structures and vehicles, as well as some orders, but I won't really be listing them all out because that feels a bit redundant, and this video is already feature length.
Construction complete.
But you've got to praise Kojima Productions for actually making the effort here, rather than just boosting the resolution and adding a bullshit photo mode. Photo mode is cool and all, but can we stop adding this after launch? This mode shouldn't be relegated to a bloody marketing push. If you want to keep the game in the public eye after launch, add something better. So if we're going to have photo mode, put it in the base game. The extra equipment also speaks to me personally, what with Cyberpunk and Half-Life bleeding into Death Stranding. A bit immersion breaking for sure, but Kojima's allowed to have some fun. The man is getting up there in age, and he's been talking a lot about how tired he is recently, so just give him a break. Some of these added items are just cosmetic, like V's facial pattern for example, or Johnny Silverhand's shades, but the new motorbike and Johnny Silverhand's hand do change the game up a little bit. The hand increases Sam's power of his left side, which makes it handy for carrying cargo, and keeps things a little less wobbly. It can also be used to stop Sam sliding down a slope, and it can knock the fuck out of a mule or a terrorist. Hacking also gets added to Death Stranding, meaning that Sam can now hack his way through the perimeter and remain off the radar for some time. You can also hack enemies too. The Half-Life items also follow a similar structure, with Gordon Freeman's glasses now being wearable. But I prefer Johnny Silverhand's glasses. Sam can even stick a valve on his head and wear a head crab, which is a favourite of mine. Half-Life 3 when? This all starts after finding some companion cubes, which is a nice touch. I'm shocked the cake wasn't in here too. Maybe that meme's finally dead. The truck also gets a nice paint job, but the real winner of this collection is the gravity gloves. These are a game changer. Allowing Sam to essentially use the force to grab cargo without getting too close. I opted not to use these in the base game because they can break some orders, and I wanted clean footage for my edit. Though I can't deny these would be a cool addition to the next game. You know, after they've removed the copyrighted branding. This actually plays into the platinum filter point, because I actually appreciate that all the new stuff ensures that you can't just auto pop a platinum. I don't know man, but players are getting a little too cheeky when it comes to auto popping a platinum, because at the end of the day they're just empty calorie platinums. And if you just auto pop all these platinums and playing a bunch of that shovelware shit on the PlayStation Store, then what does the platinum even mean anymore? We've got to keep something sacred once in a while. But I actually thank Kojima for making sure players have to do a little bit more work to get the platinum, because you're going to have to play the extra content and do a few more deliveries to get the resources needed. It was at this point when I loaded up my save from back in 2020, just before the dark times hit. Going back to this world after such a long time, it was oddly nostalgic. What of my zipline network still remaining? The roads I had built were still there, and all the signs were about, and a fair few of my structures had a bunch of likes that had just accumulated after all the years, which actually feels really good. The fact that people use my structures and roads after all this time leaves you with a good feeling, and that's the real point of Death Stranding, and the whole Strand genre. What didn't feel good is the fact I had to build a racetrack of all things. And this is a bit of a roadblock for the homophobic trophy, because you're going to have to fabricate the roadster to get that trophy to pop. I know I let Kojima off the hook for a bunch of his bullshit, because I love what his mind can come up with, and what his team can create, and what I don't love, if I'm being honest, is racing games. Unless it's a kart racer, I'm just not interested, man. Getting the times to unlock the roadster wasn't the end of the world, and it wasn't as fucking punishing as beating the racing section in Mafia Definitive Edition on the hardest difficulty, because that is crushing. But it just feels a bit needless as this all gets wrapped up, and I really hope there won't be more of this in On the Beach, but I bet you there will be. There's also a shooting range in the director's cut, so it's handy if you want to do some practicing, but it's not really needed. Though I'm surprised how many shooting games don't actually have shooting ranges in them. So yeah, it's in the director's cut if you want it, but I just went in there once for footage, and then actually forgot about it and didn't write it down in my script. Going back to my old structures and the like system really put this game into perspective, because when this game first came out, I would chase that next dopamine hit on social media. I just don't care about it that much anymore. Like, I'll check it and post once in a while, but that's really it. I don't even plug it in my videos because I just don't care. The only one I put any effort into is Letterboxd, so follow me over there if you want. Because the whole social media economy of likes and attention is just out of control, leading to some people resorting to some wild shit for attention. But in Death Stranding, likes actually mean something. Seeing them all build up since 2019 shows I've actually helped people, and they've used your stuff. This is what it means to be called a Strand game. Death Stranding is an online game at heart, with all the players coming together to reach the ultimate goal, which is connecting and rebuilding. I've honestly played nothing like Death Stranding, before or since, and it's not often I revisit a game the size of Death Stranding. What with open world games not really being a novelty anymore, but once I got into the motion of things, the gameplay loop hooked me back in, and most of those cutscenes are a real treat to sit down and watch, and it was just nice to hang out with Lou once again. He doesn't need it, what if the man having a legion of fans? Hell, Kojima can go on a fucking world tour when a new game drops. He is a true legend in this industry, a rock star. He's the first and possibly the last true auteur in video games. As of each year, pennies keep getting squeezed. A lot of the time it feels like creativity is being stifled now, in pursuit of the bottom dollar. And fuck it, even live events. Have you seen how much it costs to go to WrestleMania now? When I went to WrestleMania 28, it did not cost almost £500 to sit in the nosebleeds. And I haven't gone to a concert in ages, but those prices have also gone right up. Man, I want to see Depeche Mode live one day, but their prices keep going up as well, even after one of their band members died. And somehow my PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series S are worth more than when I bought them at launch. This has never happened before, and unfortunately I don't see this being the last price hike. Remember, we used to get console iterations that cut the price. Yeah, I do. And remember when streaming services didn't have ads? That's a thing of the past. Is there a video game crash on the horizon? Well, no. But a bunch of people are looking to escape into a digital world for a few hours, and it's getting a lot harder to afford it. Even if gaming still has some of the best value in entertainment, because you can always wait for a sale. And with AI basically here, it seems like we're entering a new era of slop. So whenever a creative mind like Hideo Kojima can shine through, I'll be there ready to play, or maybe sometime soon watch, on day one. I'm not anti-AI, as it should be used as a tool, rather than, 100% of the creation. And going back to one of the Death Stranding 2 trailers, there is a tale that Kojima might be dabbling in this territory. What with the Charlie character not having a credited actor? Only time will tell. Thanks to anyone that's made it this far. These videos just seem to get longer and longer as I find my format. They really can't just breeze through a game like Death Stranding. It's so rich with things to talk about, and I'm sure I could have gone for another hour, but I'd like this video to drop before the next game does. If you could help a lad out, drop me a like, and maybe a sub. And even a comment if you want, I'll respond to it when I can. The channel also passed its 1 year anniversary recently, and since then I've seen steady growth. So if you want to become a member, that's cool. If not, I'm just happy you've gotten this far and you can hear this, because I make these videos to be watched at the end of the day, and time is the most precious resource of them all. So if you spent your time watching this, that's real cool. Anyway, that's enough from me. I need to get editing. The next game will take you back to the streets, before the events of the Death Stranding. So until next time, I've been Ben Roy. I'll see you all on the beach. No more games.